The light glows in a small cabin in the woods. A small, slight, young man coughs up blood, realizing too late that the wine he is drinking has been attacked. The poisation will allow the mana to stay uncirculated and will be completely gone in a few minutes. Incidentally, in addition to this poisanium, the small, slight man added another word. The hero is alarmed. Doesn't he realize? The war has long since ended, and the United Empire no longer needs his forces. Now his existence is causing problems, and it seems the hero has said he will return to the village to avoid becoming the cause of a revolution. That's exactly right. He's happy to get the blood off his hands. He lives a quiet life, despairing of magic and the sins he has committed. But the threat continues. After everything, he has always feared John. Should one be afraid of one's friends? A hero, an 8th level mage, capable of destroying his friend and the entire empire at any moment. Such a monster cannot be allowed to live. Well, the mage can't forgive him. With those words, Ragnar walks away, leaving John to die, and the house slowly collapses in flames. And the hero is shocked. He's angry at this criminal. How could he have been so trustworthy? Though, in the end, it was Ragnar who turned out to be naive. Every day John lived was full of complaints, but he didn't stop learning magic. Just a simple slash to the heart with a knife fixed with time magic before the evil fully spreads and the hero would be able to survive. Thus, by holding a knife to him, this action becomes his penalties. John is hit hard to the heart, and despite all the pain, reads the spell. At the same moment, the knife begins to emanate mana, and a magic circle appears beneath John. As he stands on his hands, he continues to read the spell. Now time must return. Closing his eyes, memories assault him. The death of a loved one, an encounter with Ragnar, a violent battle at the end of which he is the only one standing. Only black bloods surround the mountains of the dead and him, but the hero suddenly comes to his senses. What happened? His pain seems to have disappeared and his wounds have worsened. The situation is rather strange, but suddenly the heroes are back. It turns out to be a slight woman who is worried that the young man is fine. Can't be his mother. But she died, so the plan worked, although it's possible he just died and met her recently. The hero takes his mother's hand in his and looks around. It's a fairly quiet settlement, full of people. Children line up for inspection and soldiers control the blood. The flag of Ivoria Tora floats in the breeze. Well, it looks like John has gone back 30 years in time. In this world, at the age of 12, all children of the Empire of Greenweaver must perform a test to discover the mages who will become the Empire's pilots. The first thing tested is the presence of magic in the brain. It is responsible for the expression of magic. The second place is the heart. Magic. It is responsible for the creation, circulation, and storage of magic. If a child possesses both types of magic, they are immediately accepted into the Magic Academy. After studying, the child's status in the social sphere corresponds to the aristocracy. 30 years old. The hero seems to have traveled back too far in time. Aeon recalls the very blade that spells the language of dragons. He still managed to use the magic of time. The young man has stretched his life to study it, so that one day he might be able to avenge his sins and wash the blood of the fallen from his hands. However, in today's situation, he simply cannot look Ragnar's actions in the eye. John thinks back to himself in the blood at battlefield. After all, he did everything for his friend. He killed his enemies out of loyalty. And what was the result? The price was death. Ragnar simply used him. Well, things would be different now. John was ringing with someone. It's the soldiers. They're inviting the new kid in for an inspection. The hero will still return to his friend, but for today he must pass a test. After all, his magic level is 8th or even higher. As he approaches the tent, the lad meets a guard to whom he allies himself. His name is John Page from the village of Morrigan. The soldier recognizes the young man immediately. He is Vanessa's son. Then let him pass, but without the necessary questions for the mage. The boy gives the soldier one last look and steps inside. Once inside the building, John sees a mage who is tired to death. Damn, how much more should he check out? The commander standing not far away is ready to give him instructions. It's not even half just for today. And then John enters the room. The mega immediately changes his expression, puts on a smile, and asks John to enter the room. Well, the first thing to do is get your head checked. Spellcaster will send John some mana. He may feel tense, but that's perfectly normal. He shouldn't be worried. Great. Now Mega asks John to roll over quickly. Mana is present in his brain, which means life can change dramatically in an instant. If mana is also found in the heart, and here are the hero suspects, then just going to the Magic Academy is not enough. Here John goes back to the mage, at least to show something, but the mage is doubtful, however listens and watches carefully. The guy concentrates and then ruthlessly materializes a fire orb in one hand, after which he uses a second spell to materialize a water orb in the other. After demonstrating this trick, John boldly stops casting both spells in a quick motion. He explains to the mage that he only recently started doing this successfully because everyone present is in a state of severe shock. The boy? Did he realize that? But not really. Never. The magician then casts a spell and asks John again, looking at him with tan eyes. The hero realizes that brain-reading magic helps detect lies by reading biological reactions, such as heart heaven. The magician points out that if the boy lies, he and his family will lose their heads. In addition, even his neighbors will be fooled. John easily repeats that he has no reason to lie. The magicka laughs. Well, it seems this guy really can't hide. He seems to have told the truth. At this moment, he hears a scream near the tent. Ion suddenly turns over, and a thought appears in his mind that it seems to be his mother. He jumps out of the tent and a horrible scene happens before his eyes. The hero is in shock. One of these soldiers is stalking his beloved mother. The girl tries to remove her hand and asks him to stop it all, but the man is not paying attention. Vanessa has been a wife for 7 years and probably doesn't mind what's going on. In fact, the girl should be grateful that the soldier took an interest in her. Directly following the hero, everyone else comes out of the tent. The commander immediately asks what's going on here. The soldier tenses up, at which point the woman quickly pulls out her hand. Oh, nothing much, just some low-quality stuff lying around. Tent. And John is just pissed. What a gift that monster is to talk like that about his mother. But the hero stopped at the magician. He seems to know what to do. He speaks calmly of John's abilities. Now he and his family are noblesse oblige. The soldier must realize that being charged with such a crime would be very hard. The man will be immediately recognized as a criminal and will be kicked out without trial. The soldiers behind him are already ready to draw their swords. Scandal at once admits the mistake. He rises to his knees crying for forgiveness from the hero, and John answers him with irritation. It is not he who needs to apologize, but his mother. The soldier goes straight back to the woman, hiding with an apology. The mother looks at her son with will and gratitude, and then John decides to say something to this monster as a last speech. The hero wants him to tell his friends about the incident so they know what happens if they attack someone like his mom, Vanessa. The boy's eyes grow wide with joy at the man and promises that he will release this. The soldier understood everything and is grateful for the forgiveness. After that, Ion approaches the mage. He is very grateful for such actions. Really? To which the other responds that the church must protect her mages. Then the mage questions the commander. He must make sure the boy is safe. Soon they talk through the magical orb. The commander understands everything. Let the boy follow them. He will be taken to the house where the princes will stay. He will be safe there. Ion will take his mother in his arms and thank the captain. He will also support the magician in forgiveness. Vanessa immediately asks the hero if he's a magician now, and the cute little boy seems to answer. The magister from the tent will graciously support the hero in forgiveness with a smile and self-reflects. Because of this boy in the pot and Ivor's palace, it's obvious that he's going to be pretty comfortable because he just has incredible abilities for such a young age. Time flies by unnoticed and night falls over the city. A slightly drunk man is walking down the street. Turns out to be the same soldier. Shit, how could it be that this little boy was fooling him like that? And at that moment, someone appears behind the soldier in a cloche. John pulls out a paralysis on the man. The soldier is scary, and the kid starts talking. What was he calling his mother there? He warned him that he would be watching him, and the guy seems deeply disturbed. John is now going to tell him what's going to happen next. He was universalized from Cook's son, after which he died of grief due to alcohol. Then he fell on a bridge over a river and died by accidentally falling off it. Yes, the hero questioned whether he should stay that way. His entire past life had been devoted to learning magic in the dragon language, and he had made a promise to himself. If he could go back in time, he would not commit acts that would lead to the death of humans. But that proved impossible. His hands never seemed to get away from the blood of scandals. The only thing John honestly wants is to protect his loved ones. To do so, he is willing to do anything, even at the cost of new blood. So he asks not to be forgiven. It was this phrase that Ragna told before John was killed. And it seems like the hero now understands why his head almost explodes. The hero didn't expect the paralyzed spells to consume almost all of his mana. John returns home and calmly opens the door and steps inside. He notices his sleeping mother and remembers his past life. After a year of studying at the Magic Academy, he and Anna were recognized as first-class magicians. That same year, Vanessa became seriously ill and died, never seeing her son, who became a magician. But this time, the boy won't let that happen. He will do anything to make sure Vanessa lives a long and happy life. He will do anything to make sure he doesn't lose his loved ones this time. A huge, luxurious finger is placed in front of him. This is the main church of the Empire, the Greenarium. In it, Emperor Terry asks Master Creator for his opinion. Nothing is known yet, perhaps he will come up with something. The 5th class mage, Havert Leon, answers him. The man asks to continue, and the mage continues. John circulates through the ships. A person becomes a mage when they understand how to control it at will. This is usually learned in the academy. This was the case with the Creator's Master and other mages as well. However, this boy was independently releasing magic, and his current abilities are the same as a first-grade first mage. Once there was a first mage who had to release his powers on his own. He taught spells on his own. That's the legend that circulates among mages. Terry remembered the story. The first mage was a creature dedicated to dragons. Hart replies that the existence of dragons was not conclusively confirmed at the time. But with no doubt about the existence of the first magician, someone had to have started magic. Well, for today, it's hard to believe Verificer's words. Guardian has to realize it personally, but it's unbelievable that the mage sent to Morrigan is lying. Therefore, we can say this with certainty. The boy is quite dangerous. Terry's idea of a knock on the door. Is that him? The prince who came? Well, let him come in. The door opens and a handsome young man walks through the door.
Hayden Trinriver.
The Emperor's star prince. His father apologizes to him for waiting for him, but the prince is more worried about why he called him. And the Emperor reminds his son that he hasn't stayed on Earth in 5 years. Now it is time to return to this world again. The man will present his son with 2 princes, 300 soldiers, and 3 third-class mages. The boy must go to the village of Morrigan and bring back a boy named John Page. But the prince doesn't realize who the little guy is. The Emperor is surprised. Well, better send another prince. Hayden quickly gets rid of all doubts from his father. He's definitely up to the task. He could be trusted. The Emperor stepped up and accepted his consent. But in this case, the boys must begin preparations at once. We have to go north. It will take time. Trin understood everything and immediately went to fetch the order. The Creator's Master must leave as well. But before he does, Terry wants to know if the man will prepare his men. Mages, for the most part, don't like long routes. Hart must believe them, and he must start now. Then perhaps when they leave, someone will agree. The Emperor will agree completely with the magic. He can leave. The door closes behind the older man, and the servant immediately begins to wonder if he plans to return. But the answer was negative. First of all, Hart wants to visit the place. John is waiting for a reply from the church and the finger. He remembered the words of that magician. Since the news of his relic was announced so quickly, it means that they immediately told it to the high priest. Everything is going according to plan. The Emperor is probably looking for mages to join them to the prince. Even though the palace master, the 5th class mage, has already quarreled with the 5th prince, he also needs people. Very soon, one of them must come to him. John understands his election. He can join the Emperor, the palace, or choose the third choice completely. But they can't use him this time. By the way, in the apartment, the mage is preparing to use the orb. However, he contacts John unexpectedly, scaring the boy badly. The young man announces that the hero has been invited to do the Emperor's bidding, but John doesn't understand what order he is supposed to follow. They arrived so suddenly and quickly. The hero opens the door and sees the inspector in front of him. Bear immediately guesses that the Emperor sent him to John. But first he must learn the necessary rules of the government. The boy, of course, agrees. He immediately demonstrates how to be supported by the Emperor. And frankly, the Magister wondered a bit. Did the boy do it all on the first try? Well, then it's time to declare order. The sphere begins to measure the bright moon, and then repeats the Emperor's voice. The boy recognizes John's talent and officially records his name in the magician's register. This registration belongs to the registrant to the court of Ivry. The Emperor also sends his son with him to the finger. The hero listens carefully, but also realizes how obvious their motives are. The magic would end. That was the rule of his magic. The princes begin their business at once. He stands up and one of the princes approaches him. It is Captain Morgan Arnold of the army. He will join the boy to the pot. The hero takes one last look at his house, and the party ends. In the finger, Lord Morgan Marcus Morgan notices that the heroes are on their way. This man is paying attention to his children. They must believe respectfully in Mage. And so the carriage comes. The hero and his girlfriend come out of it. It's amazing. Elon Page is such a powerful mage at such a young age. He clearly has a special power, as even the Emperor has taken an interest, and it's definitely worth making contact with the boy. The Lord smiles and greets the Bear Emperor. There was a real commotion in the church. The bears were just talking about infancy. He's a real talent, and he's been practicing without rest for 2 weeks now. Yes, that's exactly what John is doing. He's focusing and unashamedly freezing the entire training floor. But the hero isn't satisfied. It's too little for him. In his past body, he was capable of freezing an entire pan. Now his body is too small. He has no mana, and something must be done about it. Suddenly, someone relates to the hero, a certain man. He asks for help since the Lord has disappeared. The boy hesitates. In what sense has he disappeared? The servant continues. The Lord went to hunt for goblins, but did not return. His guards and Mr. Ravi have also disappeared. The attendant looked everywhere but couldn't find anyone. There were hardly any signs, John thought. It was too soon for the Lord to perish. Citizen Morgan Marquez Morgan would die near the First War of Annihilation. It would be like slavery for an assassin from an enemy country, and his son would leave the city. The boy will pay for it with his life. Ion doesn't understand why the servant is asking for his help instead of Morgan Marquez. In his past life, the Lord loved to hunt, so it is unbelievable that something would happen to him. The servant replies that Lord Morgan Marquez has stayed behind on an important errand. Ion is a bit surprised that the magic in charge could have left the province he was sent to. It seems to have something to do with his appearance. Resigned Master allows you to leave the city only in rare cases. The most likely case is that a person has been sentenced to the Master of the Creator, and the conversation will be about the hero. He doesn't know it could happen, but his primary weapon is knowledge of the future. If something does happen to the god, the hero will immediately lose his advantage. The boy wonders where he should go. He is ready to seek out the god and restore everything to its governmental state no matter what. The hero was about to leave when his mother stops him. Vanessa heard that the boy was going to seek the Lord. She's worried about him. Could be dangerous, and John is still so young. The boy smiles and says he will be fine. He takes his mother in his arms and promises to come back. But then the girl takes off down the hall, the little girl crying and begging to find her father. The girl promises to ask the Lord for money, land, and servants, and the boy sees a mirror on the girl's arm. Is this true? John promises to find Marquez in the blink, but otherwise he asks to be given a ring. That sounds like mana. It will definitely help in the search. The girl immediately hands it over to the hero, and whoever places it in his hand feels a noticeable increase in mana. This item is familiar from Elan. It is a Morgan ring, a low-quality artifact that increases the wearer's mana. Perhaps the Lord didn't trust it to its owner, but to his daughter? From the bottom of his heart, he asks that he find his father, interrupting his thoughts, and after that, of course, that he return the ring. Is this not a gift from the Lord? Now the ornament helps the hero recover mana a lot, and he suddenly turns into a guard and they go ahead. The soldiers bring John into the forest. There are destroyed monsters lying on the ground, and blood drops everywhere. This is where the end of the track comes. The hero asks if the victims have been found, but no, the soldiers found none. Perhaps the monsters took them with them. The hero asks. It was obvious that there were over 100 animals. Marcus must be found as soon as possible before it was too late. A bright light immediately begins to emanate from the mock. Everyone present is simply in a daze. Is he trying to summon the spirit? And here it is. A small wolf cub appears in the clearing. Is this some kind of joke? The hero does not understand. In his past life, the wolf was enormous. It seems that the current mana supply does not allow the puppy to manifest in full size. The hero points to the blood and asks the wolf cub to take the trail. It sniffs and quickly takes off. John addresses the soldiers. They must follow him. At the same time, on the rooftop, Lord Marcos is fighting goblins. There seems to be no end to them. The monsters attack again and again. The same fate awaits the Lord when he dies in this place. The man will call his son. The child must return to the castle while the Lord holds the monsters. The child must report everything. There are too many goblins here for the Morgan Mountains. It's very dangerous here. The boy literally paces with fear. The boy does not want to leave his father's side. Turning around, the goblin lumbers toward Lord Marcus from behind. His son almost can't wait to prompt his father, but it seems to be too late. It is unlikely that Lord Marquez will make it through today after all that has happened. He's very surprised by what's happened. Who was that? And finally, he noticed the boy. Is that really him? And he tries to say something, but he can't hear anything else. The Lord will pass out. Margarita's voice brings the man out of the cloud. The girl looks at her father with tears of happiness. He asks her what happened, but the girl couldn't hold back her tears. She screams and replies that Marquez was saved by John. Lord Marquez and Ravi were unconscious for 2 whole days. During this time, Margaret was very much agitated. Suddenly, the door opened and a servant entered the room. At last, his lord came to his realization. Lord Marquez asks what happened to the others, but unfortunately, the 2 soldiers and the villain were unable to return. The attendant reports that Morgan has asked about this mage. Butler immediately promises to fetch him, and now the man is already meeting John on the street. The attendant informs the boy that the Lord asks him to come to his chambers. Marquez wants to talk to him. The hero finds the Lord and asks about his health. It's going to be okay. Marcus wanted to personally thank his hero for saving him. The Lord's son also laughed. John literally saved the ruler. The boy also destroyed mountains of monsters. Marcus can't bear it. As a token of gratitude, the man gives the boy a small box and asks that he open it. John can't believe his eyes. It's a mana ring. Marcus overhears the young man feeling mana in his daughter's ring. She had been in their family for a long time, but the Lord was unaware of her power. The ring was a huge help to the hero, wasn't it? John explained how it happened and what his advantage was in the battle. Well, Lord was glad to hear that. Now this mirror belongs to a young magician. Let him consider it a mark of diversity, but the hero is a little unclear in what sense it is a mark of diversity. Then the Lord explained that from that day to today, the hero was recognized as the Morgan family's eternal guest. So John accepts his gift. The Major invests in the ring, an eternal gift. This is millennial annual pledge that every great emperor must honor. Marquez continued. His family will always be happy to see him and ready to help him in times of need. The Lord and his son promised that this name and promise would be passed down from generation to generation as long as their family lived in the south of the Emerald River. Oh well. A little while later, John was walking through the woods with the soldiers. The hero asked the captain how far they were from the village of Lloyd. The man cheerfully replied that they were almost there. The Major remembered and recalled asking the Lord if there were any alchemists in the province. The ones who could make elixir. He replied that there was an alchemist named Ledio living in the north of the village of Lloyd. He is original from capital, but moved specifically to gather special mushrooms. Well, the man had never met him in his past life. At least now he will help make an elixir to restore the missed mana. Immediately, the soldier asks the Major and the captain to take a look at what's going on because the entire town is now under fire. John's eyes spread. He was literally surprised by what he saw. At the same time, the crew captain immediately went to his sword. These are slaves. Their weapons are covered in the blood of ordinary people. They want to take some kid to Lockwood. His father attacks the attackers, but is immediately hit in the face with his sword. This happens because he was too talkative, as one of the bastards pointed out. The bad boy screams as he tries to get away from the pull and help his father. This teeth pull irritates the leader of the traps. This boy will only die after his father dies, and the boy, in tears, watches the scene as the trappers pull out a sharp and long knife. The leader will lead the boy to a better place and the father can rest in peace. The son screams loudly, unable to do anything. But suddenly, an icy thing comes through the trap. Through his tears, he doesn't realize that just happened. All the trappers panic, not realizing what the hell is going on. But then one of the men noticed a young man on the mountain. John pulled out his ice guns on the criminals. The panic continues. All through the forest, shy cries of pain and fear are heard. After battling the slaves, the young magician climbs the mountains, where he sees the city. Well, it looks like the ring has really helped him. It seems that with its help, John has risen to the level of a third-class magister. At the same time, they fight a follower of the slave battle in the city. Many are crying for their loved ones. The captain turns into a master, but the hero stops him and asks if they have any wounded among the people. However, thanks to John's actions, there is none. It's cool to hear something positive, but now there's something else that's bothering him. Is this man alive? But John hesitates and shouts, trying to bring the very person wounded by the leader back to consciousness. Magic quickly approaches the wounded man and asks him to check himself. But as soon as John looks at the wounded man, he immediately loses the ability to speak. White skin, seemingly without blood, and green caps in his hair. Could it have been alcoholism? Another name for this disease is the curse of God. There are people in whom alcoholism is present only in the brain, which consistently stimulates it and causes pain, unable to circulate and be pulled from the body. In this condition, the person spends every second of his life until death. The man wouldn't have been able to penetrate mana into his body on his own. It must be the work of an evil mage, and his condition seemed to have worsened. John places a hand full of mana on the wounded man's head. There is only one way to improve the pain. Remove the remains of the stagnant mana and take new mana. Mega did just that, and the man visibly felt better. He cries hard, this time because of the pleasure. John gets up and asks him to check the wounds. He is grateful again, and they do as warned. The junior magister is already just walking away, when suddenly someone grabs his hand. The girl is only interested in one thing. Will she tell him that his father is really improving? The hero doesn't want to fool him, so he warns that the effect will be short-lived. What? John Deed only improves the symptoms but doesn't cure the disease completely. The girl is very upset. Does that mean his father will feel bad again? But the only thing known is that this man has to choose between constantly getting mana or dying. Crying wells up in the boy's eyes. If that is the case, the boy will confidently warp Rander's Flora and save his father. Douglas quickly leaves, but someone yells after the child, asking where he's gone. And John is very surprised when he hears that name. Douglas, yes, that's the name belonging to the greatest alchemist in Imperial history. In the future, he would become the Imperial alchemist known as Douglas Heyman. Based on his general attitude, he managed to reach a high position. At that time, his objects of hatred were mages. It is now clear why an alchemist in love with mana follows a mage and the magic flower that grows in the north. This Flora does have an effect on neutralizing magic, but other than that, it is a powerful evil. Casts a boost spell on itself and, supported by the boy, blocks its path. He tries to convince the boy that the robbers may still be running out of town, but the child refuses to listen. If he takes his time, his father, and without completing the sentence, John uses a sleep spell on the boy. He slowly and quietly passes out, still repeating something about the flower, and finally Douglas falls asleep, lazing against the mage's shoulder. John cries with joy. It's a very good thing he's made it over time. That's right, if you don't consider age, this boy looks a lot like Douglas from his past life. If magic hadn't arrived in time, the boy's father would have been killed and his son would have been caught. However, it was Douglas who prepared the evil that killed John. He was conscious of Ragnar's plans and acted on his orders. Maybe it would be better to cut everything off at the root now. No, hasty decisions could backfire for John. Douglas is so talented that he has risen from humble beginnings to the status of Imperial alchemist. It might be better to lure him to our side. But where are the guarantees that he won't betray us if the wizard frees him from slavery? But suddenly, John calls out to the captain. He immediately set off in search when he learned that the wizard had suddenly disappeared, and in the blink of an eye, the knight's gaze fell on the child. The boy acted recklessly and had to be put to sleep, John explained. And since the captain has come, he should take the child to the village. But won't the wizard come with them, the captain wondered. No, John needs to go somewhere. A cool night has descended upon that very village. But the light remained on in the room. The father, having regained consciousness, asked the boy if he was asleep. Douglas replied tersely that he was not. The man was told about the wizard who had saved them. The father also knows that they have embarked on something reckless, and he promised that he would help find the flower mentioned in the boy's dream. The idea, of course, did not please the man, as there could still be bandits nearby. Douglas jumps up on the bed and cries out in fury. What was he supposed to do? Max said that his dad would continue to be sick. The father sighs. The boy shouldn't worry so much about him. But what can be done? Douglas has been searching for the flower for over a year, so how can Max manage to do this? Suddenly, their dialogue is interrupted. The man asks who has come. The guy on the other side of the door was informed that they need the Randiora flower. In that case, the father opens the door. Upon entering, Max removes his hood and greets everyone inside. The boy sitting on the bed immediately remembers him. But the father wonders, could this really be the same Max? Ian Page introduces himself by name and places the item he found on the table. Is this really the Randiora flower? Max is ready to give it up, but in return, he needs to get an answer to his question. How do they know about the effect of the flower? Well, the thing is that the head of the family simply read about it in the directory. The man places a book on the table in front of him. It was given to him by his father. Let John take a look here and there. It only grows in the north and can neutralize mana. It has 12 dark-colored petals. The green leaves and stems of the flower are extremely poisonous. The flower wilts immediately upon being picked. Therefore, cultivating and harvesting the flower is impossible. The wizard is curious if their father was also an alchemist. Turns out that alchemy is their family business, as is the book. So, hearing this, John wants to warn that for a wizard with 2 types of mana, the poison of this flower is deadly. The father understands what is being discussed, but in their family, they have never made elixirs capable of harming living beings. The man is ready to put his hand on the honor of his lineage, the Hammonds. John doesn't quite believe the words, but he thanks him for the answer. There is something else. He lifts the flower, melting the icy cage, and it instantly withers in his hands. He apologizes as he cannot be transformed. Max only wanted to preserve his form by freezing him. Lady O was surprised. Could it be that the guy had lied to them? But John only wanted to prove that he could find the flower. Therefore, he proposes a deal. He will supply the man with mana and he will stop being dependent on his illness. The hero will also find a way to use the flower in medicine. There must be records somewhere, as Douglas and Ragnar somehow came to this in their past life. Well, in return, Lady O will go with him to the capital. But the man does not understand why, and for what reason he is. The thing is, John needs elixirs for himself and his sick mother. But the wizard can hire any alchemist he wants. Lady O is clearly not the best candidate, and John calmly responds to a logical question. He needs an alchemist who can move with him and create elixirs specifically for him. Douglas ran into the forest, thinking of nothing but saving his father. Therefore, the wizard is confident that Lady will make the right decision for the good of her child. Yes, the man sees that John is clearly not so simple, but in that case, he needs time to think. The young man understands this perfectly and agrees to wait. In this life, Douglas has not lost his father and has not become a slave. Ian Page will do everything to prevent the boy's talent from falling into Ragnar's hands. And so, the next morning arrived in the village, the captain addresses the wizard and reports that everything is ready for their departure. Ian Page glanced heavily at the alchemists. He is a bit pensive today, but what can be done? Well, they can start to move forward little by little, the young wizard reported. Are they still not ready? But suddenly the door of the house opens, and out come the father and son, ready for the journey. And what decision did they make? John asked as he approached. Well, there's no point in refusing, the father began, since his life depends on the mage after all. But he also adds that John must keep his promise. The mage simply smiles in response. Of course, he will do everything. Suddenly, Douglas asks his question. Can the hero really heal his father? John nods good-naturedly. He gives his word. The child sincerely rejoices and eagerly asks if he can call the mage captain. What? Captain? Well, if the kid wants it so much, John just can't refuse him. After all, he used to think that Douglas had been a jerk since birth. The heartfelt conversation is interrupted by a soldier who has arrived in a hurry. They need to rush and set off. The prince has already crossed the Kumos River, and John is surprised. The prince is already so close. That's right. The garrison was informed about this earlier in the morning. So why does the mage find out last? The young wizard quickly heads to his horse. He will borrow it for a short time. John doesn't quite understand how to handle the saddle, but he is confident that they will get along. Approaching closer, the mage touches the steed and uses taming. A spark of mana ignites in the horse's eyes. John somehow communicates that he needs to go to the provincial castle. The horse knows the way. The beauty obediently lowers herself, allowing the hero to climb onto her. Meanwhile, the mage asks Captain Arnold not to forget to pick up Mr. Lidio. He will go first. Meanwhile, the prince and his entourage are already traveling through the forest. The young man recalls a conversation with his father. The king gave his son several tasks. The master of the tower, Havert, has been actively communicating with the fifth prince lately. Since many aristocrats listen to him, it must be important for the prince to have Havert on his side. The king is confident that Ragnar will use the mage to secure worthy allies for himself. Therefore, the son must ensure that Aeon Page stands on his side, and this must happen before the ivory tower can take any action. The mage needs to be lured away at any cost. He will be a great asset for the prince. He sighs heavily, recalling this dialogue. Damn, Aeon may be a mage, but he is still just a child. What use is he at all? Besides, all mages are subordinate to the ivory tower. Why would he switch sides to the prince? Why did the master of the tower choose Ragnar in the first place? When he becomes emperor, he will definitely remove everyone who deliberately ignored him. A terrifying horse addresses the prince. The second captain of the Imperial Knights, Oliver Raywood, believes that at least now, a message should be sent to the castle of Morrigan. The prince remarks with boredom that they seem to have already discussed this, but the captain is sure that it will definitely take time to prepare for their arrival. The prince decides to change the subject. Maybe that way he will leave him alone. The captain's family lives not far from Morrigan, right? Then, how much further do they have to travel? Oliver Raywood replies that they need to be on the road for about 2 more days. The prince smiles in response. Well, then the captain can send them a message. He wants to see how the Northern Guards and the shields of the Empire will receive the august personage. The captain was not pleased with such treatment, but what could he do? It was his duty. Meanwhile, Oliver Raywood thanks the prince and begins to carry out the order. After receiving the news, there was a real commotion in the castle. Marcus demanded that not a speck of dust be in the room. And why wasn't he warned earlier? He did not expect such a quick visit. By the way, what about the other families? Have they arrived? The butler replied that almost everyone has come. The Megfidons and Raywood will be here soon. But what about Mac? Is there any news from him? Marcus asked, no, not yet, and that's bad. The guard reports that His Majesty the Crown Prince has arrived. His retinue has already stepped onto the territory of the castle. After a while, the carriage finally stops, and the prince himself steps out. A man standing next to the duke nervously asks, "Where is the mage?" But the sad lord is already about to respond when the quick sound of hooves is heard. It is him. The majestic horse stops right in front of Marcus. Poor John clearly did not enjoy this ride, but he still finds the strength to apologize for being late. The hero is overjoyed at the return of the hero, while the others quietly whisper behind their backs. Is this little one really the mage? Marcus places his hand on John's shoulder. Since the Emperor's order was addressed personally to him, he should stand in front of everyone. The young mage comes face to face with the prince. The prince addresses him with a single question. Is he Aeon Page? Yes, it has been a while since the prince has seen him. The mage manages to glance over and see what is happening with the prince. The girl from the group looks at him and smiles kindly. Her name is Cecilia. She is a spy for the Coldwood Empire. And so the evening arrives. At the ball, the prince is addressed by his captain. His Majesty should know his limits. Well, what can you do? The only food here is wine, he replies melancholically. The prince does not understand why he even traveled such a distance. It is so boring, and he did not like the mage. The guards silently observed. He wished he could go rest soon. Not far from the group, Cecilia stood alone with a glass of wine in her hand. The girl thinks that the Emperor's task has become increasingly strange lately. Why does he even need this boy? The fact is, a few days ago, she received 2 orders. First, verify whether the rumors about Iowan are true, and if so, kidnap him along with his mother and deliver them to Cudwood. What is so special about him anyway? Alright, I need to find out. Cecilia goes outside to find the mage. And here he is in fact. First, it's worth checking what the boy is capable of. Cecilia instantly casts low-level magical arrows. They crash to the ground with force in the blink of an eye. The girl is perhaps a little surprised. Did he set up a shield? Yoan was distracted from his tasks, so he seriously asks who she is. And what does he think of himself? The girl replies to him with a slight smirk. She is actually also a mage from the Ivory Tower. She just came to say hello. That's how everyone greets each other there, attacking from behind. Yoan asked calmly. Cecilia is a bit puzzled by such a question. Let him watch his tongue first. The girl is actually older, which means she should be treated with respect. However, the young mage abruptly interrupts Cecilia, addressing her by name. The girl is greatly surprised by how he knows her name, and even her last name. Who the hell is he anyway? Of course Iowan would know. All the spies from Cudwood are given that surname. The mage can name everyone who works with her. Iowan slowly begins to approach the girl and speaks. Yal, the stable master of Molten. Robin, the Emperor's secretary. Ario, a soldier of the 9th Squad. Cecilia listens in horror to the mage, but he just continues. Isabel, a maid in the palace. Ah yes, she hasn't become one yet. The girl knows that they are all connected. Yoan is certainly aware of this, and the girl sighs, and immediately flames ignite around her, while in her hand, Cecilia creates a powerful fireball. She has no idea how the boy knows so much, but he would be better off pretending to be ignorant. Cecilia throws a powerful fireball, but at the spot where Yoan stood, a bright flame erupts. Is that all? But not so fast. The young mage appears not far from the girl. He is the only one who knows about them. In Iowan's hand, a bright shining orb has formed. Cecilia does not understand why he did not report everything. Although what is much more important for her now is to understand why the hero is unharmed at all. What the hell? Mac raises the sphere above his head. He knows it too, and the girl's gaze turned upward. A true horror appeared in her eyes. A huge number of icy needles immediately falls on the girl. He knows why Cecilia is searching for him. Max, with a cold gaze, unleashes icy spears upon the poor girl. Cecilia barely manages to set up a mana barrier, but it seems too weak, as cracks appear all over its surface. The girl slowly but surely falls into a panic. At that moment, Yoan creates a huge fireball. With the same calmness, he unleashes it upon the poor girl. Things are bad. Cecilia cannot attack while maintaining the barrier. But if she doesn't dodge now, she will simply perish. It seems she will have to take the risk. Cecilia lowers the barrier and rushes to run, but the icy needles wound her severely. She barely manages to escape the powerful explosion. God, is she really alive? The girl collapses to the ground in exhaustion. Owen must have used up all his mana. People will be running here soon. It's good that the mage has no compromising information on her. Even if he says something, no one will believe him anyway. Even the Ivory Tower will be on the girl's side. But for now, she should first restore her strength. And Iowan has come very close. He is still smiling. The girl realizes that he could easily expose Cecilia at any moment, even right now. And Tailish laughs. Is he really that overconfident? But Yoan has evidence that even the Cudwooders are unaware of. Cecilia is angry and does not believe a single word he says. But suddenly, someone approaches from the side. The guards have arrived, and the captain doesn't even have time to ask what happened before the girl's ally rushes to her aid. And Iowan, as if nothing happened, replies that he did it. The soldier asks the boy to explain himself. Well, the mage recounts that he saw a girl talking to some masked man. But Cecilia is just in shock, wondering what this little brat is even talking about. Ian continued, upon seeing the young man, the group immediately tried to kill him. Clear. Understood. So the hero was just defending himself. But how can the guy prove his words? They were both checking something on each other's bodies. Ian noticed. He believes they were marks. The commander is surprised. He definitely understood something. The guard immediately demands to inspect the girl. But her colleagues from the tower come to her defense. Doesn't the captain see that he is crossing all permissible boundaries? Does he not trust the mages from the tower? But the knight is unyielding? The guy immediately draws his sword and points it at the mage. The air prince is here, and the incident occurred here as well. Therefore, the captain needs to find out what happened and how it is related to the mages of the tower. A colleague asks to at least be allowed to heal the girl at the beginning, but the captain refuses. First, an inspection. Cecilia is clearly very unhappy with what is happening, but after the inspection, nothing suspicious was found. The mages immediately pointed out their correctness and rushed to heal the poor girl. Meanwhile, the guard casts a glance at the hero. Did he really lie? But Iwan insists that he did not. Everything he said was the truth. Therefore, he approached the girl and placed his hand on her back. Immediately, a blue light begins to seep out. Cecilia does not understand what this is. Damn it. Or at least, she is just pretending. The mages standing nearby were simply in shock because a mana mark had appeared on the girl. Cecilia was angry. What is that boy even doing? Owen saw how they were running their hands over that area of the body, apparently checking for marks. All cold walkers are sent to training camps where they are marked. Only the trainers know about it. In a past life, after a year of torture, one of them broke and told Iwan about this. The captain turns to the mages. They know what the mark is, but they are seeing it for the first time. What about Iwan? And he has no idea what it means either. The knight pondered, meaning that no one knows what this mark is, but it clearly indicates something greater. In any case, the girl needs to be healed now, and they will conduct the interrogation later. The captain orders the mages to prepare the manaterma for the girl. After that, the knight turns to Iwan. If it turns out that the boy is right, the man will definitely tell his highness about it. The prince is genuinely astonished. The boy defeated a third-class mage. Who would have thought? And what is Oliver's impression of the young boy? The captain believes that Iwan is indeed different from all the mages he has seen before. His speech and behavior are not like those of ordinary people. Well, it seems the prince needs to meet him in person to confirm this. He requests that the boy be brought immediately. Oliver promptly carries out the order. After a while, Iwan bows upon arrival. Was he summoned? Yes, that's right. The thing is, the prince heard that Iwan discovered a spy from Coldwood all by himself, and then he even achieved victory over her. Although she was a high-class mage, it was a worthy victory. For a mage, to be honest, it is an honor to hear such praise from the prince. He smiles good-naturedly. The hero deserves his reward. If there is a specific request, he can voice it, but Iwan immediately understood that the prince wants to test how greedy he is. However, since he himself suggested refusing, the mage has no intention of doing so. Iwan asks the prince to allow him to take a look at the ruins of the old ivory tower on the way to the castle. The prince is puzzled. What ruins? What could possibly be interesting about them? But the mage replies that in his childhood, he was told stories about them. That is why he wanted to see everything with his own eyes. Iwan could have asked for anything, yet he wished for such a trifle. Although, what can you expect from a child, the prince thought. Alright, they will stop there on the way. Iwan smiled. It was as easy as pie. Under the ruins of the old tower, there is a dungeon where a book of dragon spells is hidden. It is written in the dragon language, which played a key role in the study of temporal magic. Such a manuscript cannot be found anywhere else. In his past life, Iwan discovered it shortly before his death, but he was never able to fully understand it. Iwan smiles nostalgically. How much new information will he be able to learn this time? Iwan is riding in a carriage with his mother. The lady is happy, as they are going so far for the first time. Mac cannot help but agree with the words of his beloved mother. Also, in the carriage is Lidio with his son. The man is trying to charm Vanessa. The girl definitely needs to take a tour. After all, he has lived in the capital for a long time. The mother sincerely thanks him for such an offer. But Iwan does not understand what other excursions there could be. At that moment, someone knocked on the carriage. The knight reports that they have arrived. The second vice-captain of the Imperial army, Paul. Before the heroes lie the very ruins of the towers. The knight says that they will stay here for a couple of days. His Majesty has allowed them to move freely around the territory. But first, they should be shown the place where they will be staying. John sees a small village. Its leader immediately approaches to greet him. It is a great honor for them to receive the Air Prince, and His Majesty responds kindly to the old man. The young mage observes what is happening from the sidelines. It seems the prince is behaving quite well with the common people. In his past life, he always appeared hostile and gloomy. Maybe it's all because of Ragnar? With other people not related to the village or nobility, the prince behaves differently. Now it is clear why the emperor wishes for him to be the successor. Douglas distracts John from his thoughts. When are they finally going to the ruins? Mac makes a confused face. What is the boy even doing there? Well, he just wants to take a look. All right, the basement only appears at dawn anyway. They can go together tomorrow. The boy was glowing with happiness. Could it really be true for him? He sincerely thanks Ian. It seems that the guys have become friends. This conclusion is drawn by the parents, observing what is happening. Lidio wants to ask Vanessa a question. Just one. Has Mr. John always behaved this way like an adult? After all, he is only 12. The girl looks away. Yes, the boy had to grow up early. He is just as good as his father. Vanessa feels guilty that John had to try to replace his father. Lidio pondered. Was her husband also a mage? Vanessa shakes her head. Fran was an ordinary man. Even before John's birth, he went to work and disappeared. 5 years later, his belongings were returned to them. Vanessa is restless. She does not understand. Recently, her son has clearly changed. The man, who does not understand, watches and waits for the continuation, but the girl quickly closes the topic. In any case, they will soon have to visit the ruins. As for whether John will be able to find the spell book, he will only find out tomorrow.
When the war was over, Ian was able to escape the gaze of the Emperor and the Ivory Tower. Then he wandered aimlessly through the expanse. Was it a mere coincidence that the ruins of the old tower came across his path? No, for some reason it seemed to Ian that he had to come there. And now, after all this time, here he was again. And it doesn't even seem to have changed. 300 years ago, there was a war here between the Tower Mages and the descendants of the Draconians. The Draconids and Gargoyles used black magic and had enough power to destroy an entire empire. But the high-ranking Tower Mages led by Mitchell Greenriver, former ruler of the empire, were able to repair the will of the dragons and destroy the Gargoyles to keep peace in their lands. After leading the state to victory, the emperor gave up his title and devoted himself fully to his work in the tower. He also founded a new one in Greenvirium, where it stands to this day. The old tower soon fell out of use and lost interest, becoming a ruin. Being here and looking around, he's in place. The hero puts his hand on the rocks and casts a spell. In the same second they move apart, and in their place there is a kind of descent. So, of course, Ian decides to go down. It's pretty dark around, so he applies a light spell. Suddenly his gaze falls on a gargoyle statue. The guy remembers that when he first saw this creature, he was very surprised. Suddenly, at the same second, the gargoyle lets out a deafening scream. Ian takes a fighting stance. He didn't know even then that so many years after these events, a real gargoyle could be found in the ruins. The creature jumps up sharply from its seat and rushes straight at the hero. But the young mage was prepared for such a turn of events. He quickly recreates a powerful water ball and sends it towards the monster, throwing it into the wall with force. Last time he managed to get rid of the monster with a single blow, but with his current strength he would have to sweat. The gargoyle didn't just watch and wait. The creature once again prepares to rush into battle. The monster is watching Ian's actions closely, and immediately rushes at the hero in another attack. The mage immediately summons ice spears, which immediately pierce the gargoyle through and through. For some reason, it screams in hellish pain. But this is not the end, because Ian uses the spell again. This time he summons lightning. In one motion, the boy unleashes it on the enemy. Now the creature seems to be defeated and a passage should appear. And yes, just at this moment a new passage opens up in the floor. And it likes it because everything is exactly the same as in the past. The young man uses a soft landing and carefully jumps into the passage. A book lying on the table appears before Ian's eyes. Yes, he has finally found it. The dragon book is finally in front of him. And it's a very good thing he found it much sooner than he did in his last life. And Ian wonders, who hid it here after all? The dragon or the first mage? Well, at least in this life, maybe he'll be able to make out more notes and understand the book better. The boy picks up the tract, but what is it? It is completely blank. Ian starts flipping through all the pages in a panic. How is this even possible? Is it because he has already used it before? The hero slams the book shut with anger. Well, it's good that he at least remembers the spells he's already learned. Ian prepares to use his skills, but he can't say a single word. What's going on? The dragon language is completely dependent on mana, not pronunciation. So dragon spells can only be used once, and then they just disappear? Damn it, if I can't use time magic anymore, I can't go back to the past. Oh god, he'd hoped he could go back in time as many times as he wanted. At least it was good that he'd found out before it was too late. The burdens of life will weigh on him much more heavily this time than ever before. Ian is called Lord and told that they are about to arrive in the capital city. It is a majestic city with red banners flying in the middle of it. The gates actually open, letting the travelers through. And Ian looks out the window at the everyday life of ordinary people. They've finally made it. However, there is cause for concern. If Cecilia, who has been in a mana cage the whole way, escapes and contacts other traders, the Empire will immediately begin hunting for Ian. The first thing the spy will obviously report is that the hero knows spies exist. Hell, that's enough trouble as it is. Suddenly the convoy is stopped, and he can't understand what happened. And the road is blocked by mages. The captain is surprised to see what is happening. It is the master of the tower himself. The knight jumps off his horse and wonders why the mages are blocking the way of the crown prince. The old man replies that it is his majesty's order. The boy was clearly tensed by such a statement, but the old man went on and on. The investigation of Cecilia's case is being placed completely under the control of the tower. That is why the girl must be handed over immediately, and the man holds out the order to them. There's clearly no trust in this magician. Apparently, they are in a hurry, since they did not even let them enter the castle. The old man replies that it is better to deal with everything at once. Then the man approaches the captain and puts his hand on his shoulder. The knight can be sure that the tower will take up the investigation with all responsibility. They can be sure, but that's not the way Oliver likes it. But actually they have no other options. They will have to hand over the criminal immediately, so let them give her here. The old man was very angry. Until Venicilia is proven, it's too early to call her a criminal. Did they hear something about the presumption of innocence? And after all, the girl was still a tower mage, so she should be treated with the respect she deserved. Oliver clenched his fists in anger. Neither captain is happy with what's going on, and the knights around them are equally outraged. They brought the girl in, guarded Cecilia until now, and for some reason the investigation should be handled by the mages. One of the guys asks the captain, is such an order even legal? And only Ian is unfazed, because it was all predictable. The mages don't care about Cecilia's fate at all. Just the idea that the girl will be judged by ordinary soldiers irritates them. The mages will lock the girl in the deepest prison in the tower, where even the caught-walkers will not be able to escape, and they will look for a way to get out of the situation with their dignity intact. Vanessa doesn't understand what's going on, but the hero is quick to reassure his mother. He turns away to the window and sighs. At least one less problem to worry about. Suddenly, the hero is approached by the captain. The emperor said that before entering the castle, the hero must visit one more place. The hero is brought to a very beautiful and large mansion. But Anne was a little surprised. It must be some kind of a joke. After all, in his past life it was this mansion that Ragnar gave him, and the reason was his becoming a 5th grade mage. The prince approaches the boy and asks if he likes this place, because his father decided to give it to the hero. Ian immediately bows and thanks him for such a generous gift. He was 26 at the time, sort of, and now he got his own mansion before he was 14. Of course, this house is wonderful. The prince, on the other hand, offers to leave his family and entourage in the mansion until they're at the castle, well, because he needs to meet with the emperor alone. And Ian is a little worried. The solution is to take a quick tour of the castle with her mother. She had never seen it in her previous life. The prince does not mind, from which the boy literally glows with happiness and thanks him. The mansion is truly beautiful, and asks her mother if she likes everything, and the woman does not understand what he is talking about. And the boy has to explain, now it's actually their new home. Mother is incredibly defeated, but Ian is glad that in this life he was able to show his mother. No matter how strong a mage he was, the boy never got over the loss of his mother. She wonders how a mere man could live here. This place looks better than the Imperial courts. Ian adds that this mansion was used by the Imperial family, and each news is more and more surprising to the girl. The hero is sure, now everything is different. He will be able to give his mother what he could not give then. They will spend more time together, and the boy will be able to see Vanessa happy. But the only question on her mind right now is, will she be able to keep such a huge house clean? Is that all she cares about? Ian doesn't understand. From now on, her mother won't have to touch the dirty dishes and clean up. A little later, the young boy arrives at the palace. He is dressed in his best attire, and he remembers that he has not met the current emperor before. When the boy graduated from the academy and began to change the world, the disease had already taken him. However, the emperor was always spoken of favorably because of his wisdom and skillful political leadership. Ian hopes to emphasize a few useful skills for himself. Walking through the castle, the boy turns his attention to the opposite building. I wonder what the 5th prince, Ragnar, is doing right now. He is most like his father, But unlike the Emperor, he is completely ignorant of such feelings as compassion and mercy. The thought of this old friend and new enemy makes Ian clench his fists. What will happen when they meet again? But now the door is opened and the Emperor is waiting for him. The monarch sits on his majestic throne and Ian kneels before him. It is a great honor for the boy to meet His Highness. But the man asks the young man to rise. The Emperor has heard of Ian. He is only a young boy, but he has already achieved so much. The boy begins to be modest, saying that this is not the case at all, and the Emperor asks him to drop the formalities. He realizes that the boy would hardly have learned etiquette in such a short time, so he asks him to behave as usual. Ian sadly remembers that Ragnar said similar words to him when they first met. The Emperor asks if the boy liked the palace, and the prince smiles good-naturedly as he meets the hero's gaze. You bet, Ian is grateful for such a generous gift. Many people dream of such a thing all their lives. What else is there to say? His mother, Vanessa, is also very happy. Well, in that case, let's get to the point. Does Ian understand why the prince was sent for him and why the mansion was given to him? The boy doubted whether he should answer directly. Ragnaria liked the straightforwardness in Ragnaria, who apparently accepted her father. But perhaps it's not time yet. Until Ian got what he wanted, he should pretend to be a normal boy with simple thoughts and desires. You must answer as a child would answer. And he answers that maybe it's because he's talented, and the boy is sure that it's only because he's talented. The prince and Ian are tensely silent, waiting for the Emperor's speech to continue. Suddenly, Blondin reminds his father that Ian is a child. He just doesn't understand what's going on. The man stares intently at his son. To think, this is the first time the prince has stood up for someone. The king agrees. Yes, he only invited Anna because of his talent. Besides, all the attendants admired his abilities. The boy found the spy, and all children are rewarded for good deeds. So what does Ian want? He will fulfill everything. The hero realizes that this is his chance. He has already thought about it. If he were older, he could ask for something worthwhile, but now, maybe permission to see the castle. The Emperor is amazed, just that? But yes, he is. Ian just wants to see what the castle looks like inside. To see how beautiful it is and share it with his mother. The prince explains to his father how on the way the boy asked to see the ruins of the tower. I guess boys his age are very curious. It's only natural. Ian, on the other hand, smiles enigmatically. Well, the Emperor agrees after all. The servant immediately gives the boy a tablet. With its help, the hero can get into absolutely any room of the castle. He can also ask the guards to show everything. Ian thanks for such a reward. Well, since this is his only request, the Emperor himself will decide how to reward the boy. The man asks the maids to bring something in. It's a huge chest of gold, and the maids who bring it will go to Ian's palace right away. Well, at least Mother won't have to worry about cleaning up anymore. Once again, Ian thanked the Emperor for his generosity. As he closed the door behind him, he thought, was the Emperor really such a great man? The hero did not expect to receive sympathy in his direction, and the feeling that he was being tested did not leave him all the time. After all, the Emperor simply must be on guard in his dealings with everyone, including Ragnar. Mistrust is the basis of politics and government. That's what Ragnar always said. Okay, now in it, there's something that needs to be dealt with. The boy approaches the soldier guarding the garden, and the soldier asks him why the mage came here. And he shows a sign to enter the royal garden. The knight is immediately overwhelmed. Of course he's going to show it all now. The boy has to pretend he's sightseeing. So he walks up to the columns and finally, the mage remembers the prince telling him about this place. No one but the royal family could come here. This is where Ragnar's ancestors are buried. Someday he will be there himself, and sneaks in and the guard sleeps peacefully. But the boy decides to be reassured and casts a sleep spell. There seemed to be something near the tomb of the first emperor, but where is it? Oh, that's right. He finally found it. It's a mushroom with a heart of stone. Ian quickly slices it off with his ice spear. All right, that's probably enough for him. Suddenly, the boy hears a conversation. A guard is asking someone what he's doing here at this hour. And it seems that Ian guessed, if it is. Mac quickly removes the glowing orb and hides behind a column, listening to the conversation. A young man enters the hall, and a servant addresses a certain princess. Prince, there are 3 of them in the royal family. And, needless to say, none of them were Ragnar. The girl replies that this place is quiet and free of intruders. The lady came here because it is her duty, and Kevin should check the reliability of the sanctuary's defenses. They have a worthy excuse. The hero immediately realizes that this girl is Haley Greenriver, the sister of the crown prince. Kevin worries that someone might report their visit to the tower, to which the girl irritably replies that this won't happen. Doesn't the guy know how dangerous the tower is? And she immediately makes an angelic face. Haley is doing this for her brother and father, after all. and Kevin sighs he will continue to help the girl. She still remembers the techniques they learned last time. The girl is glowing with happiness. Of course she remembers. The mage suggests starting with light. Haley decides to concentrate mana first, and after a moment the girl casts a glowing orb. And he is amazed. Does the princess have magic? And the girl, to his even greater surprise, was disappointed. The ball came out too small. Haley Greenriver was a girl who lived her life quietly, like a bird in a cage. In a previous life, she left to follow her brother, the crown prince. It happened after Ragnarf came to the throne and executed the guy. He's actually surprised, because he never would have thought the princess had magic. But why is she hiding it? After all, the independent study of magic, as well as hiding magical skills, is punishable by law. The princess mage simply can't not know this. Haley asks a servant to teach her a protection spell, well, like Volcano. But, to be honest, the kid doesn't really know how to do it himself. Suddenly the girl notices something. Kevin asks what's wrong, have they been spotted? Damn it, they are in trouble, they need to leave immediately. But the girl reassures her companion that only members of the royal family can get in here. A little later, Ian reflects on what he has seen. Who would have thought that the princess was a wizard? Haley must be hiding her abilities, because she knows that the Tower Master supports Ragnar. It took him too long to go to the shrine. As he was leaving the garden, a guard called out to him. The man asks if Ian has finished his walk. He smiles good-naturedly and says that he found what he wanted. Back in the castle, the boy notices Lidio and asks him where his mother and the others are. The man replies that Miss Page is talking to the maids, but Douglas is looking around the mansion. The boy is happy. This castle is unbelievable to him. Well, that's good for Ian. He asks if they can talk. Together with Lidio, they go into the same room, and the mage asks the man to make an elixir. Tom wonders what kind of elixir they are talking about, and then Ian pulls out the poisonous mushrooms with a heart of stone, plucked in the sanctuary. The thing is that they can paralyze a man and stop his heart. The lady is surprised. Does the boy want to manufacture poison? To which the young man asks if the man knows about interrogation magic, which it turns out he did. Lidio understood what it was all about. Ian needs an elixir to get around it. The man would be up to the mission. Lidio needs to do some research. Is it really urgent? The boy nods, informing him that it is. We need to make the potion as soon as possible. But suddenly the conversation is interrupted by one of the servants. Ian has received a letter from the ivory tower. The girl hands it to him on a tray and the young man begins to read it. It's a letter, an invitation to study in the tower. There will be a formal meeting in exactly 1 week. Since Ian is now the mage of the tower, they are hoping for his presence. A week. Lidio has only a week to make the elixir. Can he manage it? Well, I guess he has no choice. He'll have to stay awake and work hard to achieve the desired result. Ian relies on him a great deal. And so after this dialogue, a week has passed, and the boy goes to the tower. And he takes out an elixir made by Lidio. It should only be enough for 2 hours. The boy squeezes the flask, and at that moment he notices the tower out of the corner of his eye. Mac realizes that even though the tower holds many memories, he still returned to it. A servant reports to Ian that they have arrived. As soon as the boy steps out of the carriage, he is suddenly greeted by the mage girl. She smiles welcomingly, for her task is to lead the boy to the master of the tower. Once inside, the girl immediately begins to conduct a tour. And Ian is in his thoughts. Years have not changed this place and are unlikely to change in the future. Freckles points Ian to a golden disc. It's a monolift. It can be used to move between floors, and it is the one used by high-ranking mages to get to the last floor. The girl offers to try it out. On the top floor, the master of the tower will be waiting for Ian. Having informed this, the girl says goodbye to the young mage. Immediately the disc under Ian's feet begins to glow and some runes begin to appear on it. A powerful flash of light engulfs the boy. But Ian is perfectly calm. He's worried about something else right now, and he quickly drinks the elixir. Meanwhile, finally arrives at the right floor. A large door appears before Ian's eyes. The boy opens it and enters an extraneous hall. He is immediately called out by the head magician. The old man thanks the hero for accepting the invitation here. Please let him pass. And besides the old man, there are also quite a few powerful mages here. And the chief magician explains to Ian, all newcomers go through such a rite. The hero approaches the chair. The boy feels the distrust of those around him. The old man explains that the hero's talent is truly good, but it seemed too unusual to all of them. All mages are much closer to each other and distrust simply has no place. The hero probably asks if he will be tortured, which only makes the old man laugh. Do they really look that intimidating? No, such methods are not for them, and it should just answer the questions he will be asked. And so the old man's eyes fill with mana. Well, it's time to begin. And the first thing the old man does is read out the simplest question. Is it true that the boy was born in the year 488? His father is a merchant and his mother a cook. The hero does not hesitate to answer such an easy question. One of the men asks why Ian needs the alchemist of Lidio. The hero immediately makes up a story. His mother is sick, she needs medicine all the time. On the whole, of course, he did not deceive. But why did the hero then go to the ruins of the old tower? It's simple, Ian often read about them in books and always dreamed of one day looking at them. Then the man asks about Cecilia. The hero remembers her, doesn't he? The girl still remains silent. However, the most important question is asked by the older woman. Has Ian studied magic before? If not, then why does the boy know such powerful spells as Fireball, Freezing Blast? And the old woman wants to hear a convincing answer. The boy calmly explains that he was just visualizing in his head what he wanted to create. Like fire, for example. The hero did it over and over again, until one day the fire didn't appear. Everyone freaked out. That's a load of crap. It can't be. But the old man is focused. Interrogation magic was used on the hero. The kid wouldn't be able to lie to them. Could it be that the first legendary mage was reborn as a child? Or was Ian just a top-class mage who could suppress interrogation magic? No, that's simply impossible. The kid is too young for that. Then who is he? And at the same moment, the red-haired girl rises abruptly from her seat. It's time to ask what they're all here for. The girl tries to calm down, but to no avail. Are they themselves not interested in the hero's answer? Helen asks her only question. Who is Ion anyway? The girl is tired of the hero's lies. The red-haired girl wants to know who he really is. Why is he leading them around by the nose? Yes, perhaps this girl has not changed at all. The hero recalls how in a previous life Helen was the youngest mage of the 4th class before his appearance, and for her fiery temper the girl was nicknamed the Fire Lady. Ion asks if the girl doesn't know about him. Did you read the information the old man gave you? Helen's attitude was literally out of control. The boy seems to be mocking her, but their conflict is stopped by the chapter. The old man seriously looks at the hero. The man wants to ask one last question. On the day of the inspection, Ian had a conflict with a soldier because of his disrespectful attitude towards Vanessa. The hero continues to listen to the old man in silence. Well, the very next day Jonathan died and there were traces of mana on his body. So here is the crux of the matter. Did Ian have something to do with this incident? The hero realizes that the head is considered the master of the tower for a reason. The man never relies on magic alone, always thinking critically and questioning everything. Ian stares intently at the man. The fact is that a normal person would definitely be confused hearing such a question. Although, hell, staying calm would obviously raise even more suspicion. And since it's the last question, should he shrug off the effects of the elixir? Or should he answer as he is expected to? The hero puts his hand on his heart. He knows nothing about it. All present are greatly surprised. Is the guy so brazenly lying to them? The man decides to play along with Jonah. The old man had no doubt. The boy is clearly not capable of such a thing. The head apologizes for such a rude question. By the way, the man lied about the mana traces. Actually, the man just fell off a bridge. It's not good to lie, but it's a rite of passage for all magic. And since nothing is known about Ian's power, it is important to clarify what the hero can do and what he will be able to do in the future. The rest of the people present are watching intently. A mana vault appears in front of the hero. The old man explains that this is the main source of the tower's power. Right now the color of the tool is transparent, but the more mana it absorbs, the bluer it will become. So the tower head asks the hero to channel his mana into the orb. Ian asks if he should pour it all in. Yes, everyone wants to see how strong the guy is. Then Ian walks over to the orb. The hero remembers that the vault can be filled up to level 3. In his case, however, it would be better to do it up to the 2nd. The hero puts his hand on the ball, and now he's going to show them what they want. Then everyone breathes a sigh of relief. But wait a minute, why would he even do that? In his past life, the hero was a level 8 mage, but his name didn't remain in history. The hero always lived as the situation demanded. Ian places his other hand on the balloon. He remembers himself in the blood on the battlefield. He doesn't care about strength, he doesn't care about power or honor. Magic is the only thing the hero cares about. Ian channels the power into the orb. The instrument lights up with a bright blue light and instantly shatters into shards. The entire room quickly fills with mist. Ian himself is breathing heavily. This ordeal had not been easy for him, and everyone is literally dumbfounded and amazed by what is happening. The Fire Lady doesn't understand. How is this even possible? Isn't he a mage of the 3rd level? The hero has clearly surpassed all their expectations, and Ian confidently comes out of the smoke. One of the mages beats his fist on the table with force. The rumors about the hero turned out to be true. and his level is above the 3rd level. The only one who's no match for him. And anyway, they all saw the look on Ion's face when he lied about killing the soldier. The man is just outraged. Does the master even know what that means? The tower just has to poach and rein in the boy before he becomes a true monster. However, training at the academy and a 5-year mana testing mission in the province the boy clearly does not need. The old man agrees, there is no point in the hero entering the academy, he will only become a problem for other students there. So since even they are amazed by his abilities, how will the students feel? Absolutely everyone in the room nods in agreement. The old man, to be honest, doesn't think it's important whether Ian killed that soldier or not. The main thing is that the interrogation magic affects the boy, which means you can always check if he's lying to them or not. The man hopes that everyone understands the importance of maintaining the tower's reputation. The stronger their magic, the stronger the ivory tower itself. By the way, wouldn't it be better to recognize the hero as the 12th Archmage and then officially announce that a level 4 mother appears? The head of the tower remarks that it would also be best to receive individualized training from a top-tier mage. Yes, everyone present fully agrees with the head. Well, if that's the case, then fine, but who wants to take over his training after all? And someone seems to be raising their hand. One girl agrees. Yeah, the hero clearly didn't expect to be recognized as an Archmage so quickly and asked to come here again. And she calls out to this girl. The hero is happy to see her again. This pretty girl has heard that she too has been recognized as a mage of the 4th class. Actually yes, it is so, there is nothing to hide. The girl's eyes light up, it's just unbelievable. He's only 12 and he's already an Archmage. Yes, the rumors about the boy are true after all. And by the way, the cute boy has just been appointed as the hero's assistant for the next year. And the girl really hopes they'll get along. The hero suggests to the girl to come on you. After all, she is older and more experienced. Compliments, of course, is not his specialty, but the girl is wildly delighted. Since the hero thinks so, the girl is simply obliged to make an excursion to the hero. And so they come to the academy. The girl tells him that the hero could be trained here, but with such impeccable skills, there is no need for a personal mentor. Ian realizes that, most likely, the girl will just brainwash him, suggesting that he go to the side of the tower. At this point, the hero notices his former friends. In his past life, he stood next to them. Absolutely all of these guys were killed by Colwood spies during the First Unification War. The hero remembers himself at their graves. He never expected to see them alive again, and smiles slightly. There's a huge gap between them now, but perhaps a chat will still be possible. The girl kindly shows the boy the room. The girl even used cleaning magic. The hero, of course, couldn't help but be excited. Is this really the room? The girl explains that 300 years ago, when the new tower was founded, there were 24 4th-class mages. The master allowed the hero to use this room for his practices. And the pretty girl asks Ian to wait, now she will bring a tutor for him. After these words, the girl leaves, and the hero touches the table and raises his eyes to the window. How long it's been since he's been here. In this life, the room went to the boy 7 years earlier, all because he is recognized as an Archmage at such an early age. His path is set. It is imperative for the hero to strengthen his influence in the tower over the next 6 years. Aeon recalls how, in a past life, the tower went completely over to Ragnar's side. It is incumbent upon the hero to strengthen his position by this point. He will clearly need power to stop the tower master and his influence over the prince. The hero has a duty to subdue the power of the tower, which has been going after its master all along. He needs to gain respect for himself and a power greater than the old man. That's the only way he'll be able to take control of the tower. The hero sighs. Until then he'll have to pretend to be a little boy while he's too weak and young and can't even make it to 5th grade. At the same second, the door opens forcefully and he turns around surprised to see who is in front of him. Why did they send her in the first place? And Helen smiles. It's been a long time since they've seen the little liar. The hero is puzzled. Why did they send Helen specifically? The hero remarks, it was the same girl who had to collect the shards of the mana vault. The girl is even more pissed off. It seems the boy has gotten even more brazen. Well, it doesn't matter, he knows most of their program after all. Etiquette, history of the tower, theory of magic. In short, everything they teach at the academy. Even so, the tower master decided to introduce a personal teacher to the hero. Ordinary students would have a hard time studying with the boy. In one motion, the girl lifts the books from the shelves and grabs one of them, while the rest forcefully collapses to the floor. Her own book is also tossed aside by the girl. Let the old men learn from these books. Treatises aren't her thing. Helen leans toward the hero. He's the one who caught Cecilia. And the girl was good in battle. The fiery girl had high hopes for her. And the girl wonders if that girl had not turned out to be a spy, she would have surpassed the red-haired girl. Helen casts a hard glance at the hero. It's a good thing he figured out the traitor. And then the girl turns around. Now that she was his teacher, it was time to teach him something. There are several types of mages: warrior mages, assistant mages, and research mages. The girl considers the other types of mages to be trash. Helen arrogantly asks how the hero thinks the girl belongs to which class. The hero sighs heavily, of course, to the former. Helen smiles, because the red-haired girl is the best mage of her kind. The pretty girl stares greedily at the hero. No matter who says what, the girl's skills are on a whole other level. Helen approaches Ian. The fiery wench has her own approach to training, and it's time to get to it. It's time for them to go. The hero clearly does not like this arrangement. The redhead leads the hero to the academy courtyard. The girl wonders if the hero even understands what they will do. Now Ian will learn to fight without fear of death. The guy realizes that events are taking their course. The girl in his past life molested him. The eyes of the hero light up. This time he will show what he is capable of from the beginning. The mages gathered around don't understand what's going on here. Have they decided to fight here? But wouldn't that be dangerous for Ian? Helen smirks. It looks like enough spectators have gathered, so it's time to get started. Well, the first move will be the hero's. Ian epically throws off his cloak. The girl is sure she can handle it. Helen is shocked at the insolence. Should she start worrying? What's the big deal? Then the hero puts his hand forward. He's not going to give in. The guy concentrates mana around him, and Helen advises the hero to create a shield first. The girl is clearly fired up with the desire to win. Although none of this matters, the Fire Maiden will easily destroy any shield. The hero watches Helen's skill carefully. The boy immediately erects an ice block around himself. And that's his idea of a joke? Of all the accounts, he chose this one? The girl is tapping on the ice block. Is the boy just going to sit there and waste mana? Ice block is a powerful defense spell. But there's a problem: a mage imprisoned in it can't use other spells. Helen threw up her hands. Though what did the red-haired girl expect from the boy? Wait a minute, what's that? Does everyone around you hear that sound too? The girl turns sharply to the ice cage. This is simply impossible. The hero opens his eyes. Damn, how did he even manage to move in this block? Helen hesitantly approaches. But at the same second, a plant bursting out of the ground appears in front of the girl. Helen is horrified by this turn of events, and a powerful sound sweeps across the area. The lianas come down on Helen with force. The girl barely manages to dodge and applies flames. Damn, when will they finally stop appearing? At this rate, the girl is about to lose to him. She needs to find a way to get Ian out of the ice block. The girl frantically tries to come up with a plan. And then a plant suddenly popped up from behind. Helen only has time to be surprised as the vines entwine the girl's body. The hero comes out of the ice cage. Now it is clear to the girl why he is considered the reincarnation of the first magician. The Fire Maiden meekly accepts defeat. Now the hero can let the girl go. But no, it's too easy a victory. Helen is shocked. The girl has already lost. What does the boy mean? Ian raises his hand, and sparks immediately dance in his fingers, and the sky clouds over. What's going on? A hero wouldn't do that, would he? Ian summons a strong bolt of lightning. Helen is horrified. It's just a drill. The girl begs. No, she begs the hero to stop. But here comes and with a cold stare, bringing the lightning down on her. In Helen's eyes there is real horror. The mages around in complete silence watch what is happening. The girl barely regains consciousness. The lightning struck very close to her. However, she is alive. The hero takes a seat next to her. Helen is horrified and demands that Ian move away from her immediately, but the boy moves right up to the red-haired girl's face. Does the girl think she has anything to teach him? Helen lightning fast starts shaking her head left to right, and the hero smiles victoriously. The boy tells the girl, trembling with fear, that he's leaving. In fact, he turns around and begins to walk away with a confident stride. Ian asks those present to stand aside. He is very tired, and everyone, of course, immediately gives way to him. A little later, the Tower Master decides to check on Helen. The man asks one of the mages how she is feeling. Unfortunately, not so good. The girl has been refusing to eat for days. The old man is insanely pissed off. The red-haired girl lost to some 12-year-old boy? The man had asked the girl to break her to side with the tower. And in the end, Helen was broken herself. Yes, it seems that to curb the hero will not be so easy. He's not a house dog ready to be chained up. Yes, this is clearly going to take more time. The man opens the door, the old man apologizes for being late, and the prince stands by the table. The guy closes the book. That's okay. The prince made the appointment himself, and the guy smiles slightly. The blonde asks the old man to tell more about one page. And so in the morning Douglas is incredibly beautifully dressed and approaches his father. The boy is ready to go, but the man only smiles. Lydio tells the hero that he will take his son to the academy. The boy is glowing with happiness. They will be back soon. Calls him captain. The doors close behind them, and the hero thinks, today is the first day of classes. Douglas was accepted into the highest ranks of the alchemical academy. Obviously, the boy has talent, but Ian finds it easy to learn the material he has studied long ago, and he slams the book shut for the umpteenth time. And besides studying magic, there is nothing else to do. Then Ian gets up from his chair, as he has not had a moment's rest since his return to the past. Ragnar has not yet begun to act, but he will not stay long. The hero looks at his reflection. Ideally, he should start training his body to increase his abilities. But could he just let himself relax and do nothing? Suddenly there was a knock at the door. A maid, Ian thought. It is. The maid brings in a letter on a tray. It's an invitation from the palace. But Ian is a little confused about what the invitation is and where it is going. The hero takes the letter in his hands. There is a seal, and it belongs to the crown prince. To be honest, the hero is a bit confused. But nevertheless, already in the evening Ian arrives at the palace. The boy does not understand why the prince invited him to the event. Everyone knows that magicians who are not blood aristocrats are not invited to the light. The hero is perplexed as to what the prince was even thinking. For the first time, the prince himself took on the task of organizing the banquet. In his past life, the prince did not organize events, as he was not in close relations with the nobility. Because of his passive approach to life, the guy never made his debut in the politics of the empire and was not recognized in high society. Unlike Ragnar, the fifth prince was able to strengthen his position by taking power into his hands. Apparently, the emperor, the only person left on the crown prince's side, managed to influence his son. Well, perhaps it's only to the hero's advantage. Except that he had never attended an event like this before. Perhaps we should sit quietly and leave. The hero approaches the butler, and the man holds out an invitation card. The door opens, and an incredibly beautifully decorated hall appears before the hero. People whisper among themselves, noticing the boy, and he feels a little out of place. And the butler announces, His Highness, the Crown Prince has arrived, and everyone immediately takes a bow. The prince walks up to the balcony and thanks everyone for coming today. The boy reminds them that today is the first time they are opening the banquet in his father's place. But before we begin, the prince wants to introduce someone. Handsome turns his head toward the hero. Really? The prince explains that his special guest today is a fourth-class Archmage. Hailing from the northern province of Morrigan, Ian Page, he is in the ivory tower. The hero is shocked at this turn of events. The guy seriously did it. The happy prince approaches Ian. In fact, all the celebration is organized just for him. And for his sake, the hero must be flattered. Hell, the guy put on this circus to show the nobles that the hero is on his side. Yeah, I guess it was the emperor's idea. The prince has heard how great he was in the tower, and the boy is laughing merrily. The hero just arrived and almost defeated a top-class mage from the start. Funny how the local old-timers felt. The first time they met, the prince thought it would be more difficult with Ian. He was very scruffy, but his outstanding talent is simply amazing. Of course, to go after the hero was suggested by the emperor, but the guy is glad that it worked out that way. But there is someone whom the prince would also like to introduce. The blonde asks the man to approach, and Ian is clearly surprised because the prince has decided to introduce his younger sister, Haley. The girl happily introduces herself to the hero. The princess is all glowing. Both of them talk so much, he is already a real celebrity. Today the girl came just to say hello. But next time, she'd really like to meet and discuss the hero's life. Well, Ion can probably only tell Princess Haley boring stories about monsters and magic. Oh well, the princess is not only interested in magic itself, but also in the lives of other people on Earth. In general, the girl smiles, which is why she wants to ask the hero about a lot of things. Soon the princess will send him an invitation, but for now the girl wishes the hero to just enjoy today's banquet. The hero thanks for the attention to himself, and the prince and his sister leave. Ian, on the other hand, is watching Haley carefully. The girl is not the same as she appeared in the sanctuary. Here she glows. The prince, though worried, is doing a good job. Well, Ian can leave before he gets bored. And as he walks outside, he spots Oliver. And he walks up to the guy, and he looks great in his tuxedo. The knight is embarrassed, because his highness ordered him to wear this formal attire. The men look at each other, and it becomes somehow awkward. Apparently, the hero went out on the terrace for nothing. Oliver says he knows what rumors are going around about the hero, about his victory over Helen. The hero recalls that the prince immediately mentions the incident. and he is surprised that even Oliver knows about the incident. The boy thought that the affairs of the tower never went beyond its borders. But if the knights couldn't get important information, then why would they be needed at all? Especially in this century. The current century, yes. Since the Empire's defense and greenwares are now in charge of magic, the knights have become aids and decorations that speak of their master status. Oliver is surprised that the hero was able to defeat such a fourth-class mage, Helen herself, the Fire Lord. The guy even starts to doubt that he too is really a little boy, and the hero makes an innocent face. Come on, he's not that good. Oliver realizes that the prince trusts the hero, even invited him to a banquet for high-ranking gentlemen. That's why the guy just has to find out whose side the hero is on. The knight does not care who Ian really is and how he acquired such an outstanding talent at such a young age. But the guy knows that the ivory tower supports the fifth prince. What about the hero? He is also in favor of them. Ion was slightly embarrassed. Such a question caught him off guard. Who could answer it so straightforwardly? Well, the thing is, Oliver just needs to know. The boy's eyes become icy. Who is his master's ally and who is his enemy? The hero remembers about Oliver. The boy and in that life protected the prince and even gave his life for him. And he does not yet know which side he is on, but such an answer clearly does not suit the knight. That is why the hero can assure Oliver of one thing: he will never side with the fifth prince in his life. The knight is greatly surprised by such an answer, and the guy quickly looks around. Ian calms the man. He applied magic, so outsiders did not hear their dialogue. The hero smiles good-naturedly. That answer would satisfy Oliver, wouldn't it? And yes, perhaps quite satisfactory. But can the boy ask the hero for one favor? Before the hero chooses sides, let him duel with the knight. Oliver needs to get stronger. A duel? The guy wants to figure out how to stand up to the mages? But Oliver realizes that one day his sword may turn against the hero. Yes, he does. The hero laughs, and Oliver is pretty tough. Still, Ion would probably refuse such an offer. The fact is that for him there is absolutely no benefit here. The boy takes off his necklace and holds it out to the boy. It was given to him by the Empress when he became His Highness' personal knight. The woman said it was magical and helped clear the mine. The hero is literally stunned. This is one of the lost Imperial treasures that belonged to the Empress. And Oliver is going to give it away? The jewelry would clearly be more useful to the hero. He's not kidding, but it was a gift to the late Empress. It is not so important. The woman asked to protect her son, and training with Ian will help to fulfill this request. The deceased lady would have understood that. The hero looks sadly at such a dedicated man. Well, okay, since that's the case, he agrees to the training. The hero accepts the necklace, and Oliver is only too happy to do so. And at that very second, there is a powerful explosion nearby. Such a turn of events absolutely none of them clearly did not expect, and it seemed to rumble through the palace. Oliver was horrified, for he was worried for his prince. This concerned him directly first and foremost. And running inside, the captain immediately called out to His Highness. Someone from the back of the hall answered and motioned for him to come over. It was the crown prince and his entourage. They were all terrified. Thank God His Highness is all right. Guards from other corners of the palace came running. Oliver immediately asked for a report on what happened, and one of the palace guards reported. There was an explosion in the palace compound. The cause is not yet known. They had already sent a message through the emergency communication system and were waiting for reinforcements from all posts. Ion needed to remember what this was about. The Emperor's emergency communication system, a system that links soldiers, country, palace, and ivory tower. Once activated, everyone is obligated to rush to the palace. And once the system is activated, it won't be long before the magicians and soldiers are here. But what if that's what the explosions were designed to do? Ion seems to have figured it out. We must hurry. That's why he created a mana barrier, which he used to cover all the gentlemen present. And then he asked Haley to support him with her mana. The girl hesitated, because she had never practiced such a thing herself. But the answer waited no time, and the young man instructed her to do so, leaving the dome. Ion hastened to find out what he needed. For this the boy turned to the maids. He sought one of them named Isabel. No one was hiding. That girl said she really wanted to visit the central palace. That's why she came from the second palace. That's what the mage thought. They want to find Cecilia. The Cotwalkers plan to use explosions to draw the guards from the ivory tower to get to the girl. They don't care about her life. They want information about Jonah, and he's not planning on letting that happen. As expected, the tower was quiet. No one heard the experienced magician's footsteps, so he could not stop him from approaching Cecilia's cell and saying hello to her. The girl didn't realize who it was at first, but when Daniel introduced himself, everything became clear, and he thought she was much more capable. But alas, Cecilia immediately rushed to the bars and asked to be released. The boy didn't mind, but first they had to clear something up, and the girl understood what it was about. She didn't say anything to anyone. Only the boy, Ian Page, knew everything, both about the cowgirls and the orders given to them. Daniel was actually surprised after hearing this. The young mage even knew about magical markings unlike Cecilia, and all the other codwalkers who had been told about it recently, Danielle added. The girl didn't know any more information and again asked to be released. Yes, the guy had no choice but to open the door for her to come out. But before doing so, there was something she needed to hear. At that moment, a sharp blade dug sharply into her thin neck and went almost through her. Cecilia, who had fallen to her knees, did not have long to live. The chiefs of the Codwalkers had to think for a long time about how they could get into the tower and what to do with the girl. She's a third-class mage after all, so wouldn't it be better to rescue her? But here's their final decision. Sleep well, my friend Cecilia. And you too, came a cold voice from behind him, to which Daniel turned sharply, and all in time to snatch his blade from beneath his robe and then throw it at the unexpected guest. Yes, he seemed to scratch Ian's cheek, but here the man didn't even flinch, only casting a dry look at his wound. So the guy had already killed Cecilia? Thanks for that. One less problem to worry about. Walls of ice appeared around the Coldwalker's legs, restraining him. Ian was incredibly lucky to meet Daniel here, because the boy had wanted to kill him with his own hands for so long. He offered to take him alive. Wouldn't that be better? But the ice kept chaining his body higher and higher. Now Ian will be able to avenge all his friends. Danielle doesn't understand what this is all about, but the magician explained, before that incident was still 10 years, and almost all of Coldwalker's body was already covered with ice. Ian went back in time and made a promise to himself to change everything. The mage's hand touched the ice, and then it cracked in a flash. There was no doubt in the young man's eyes as he looked at the body that had fallen to the ground. We need to find the mana seal around his neck, came voices around the corner. Ian had to hurry. The elder demands an explanation of what happened here. A broken grate, 2 corpses in the middle of the passage, and both of them with the markings of cowpunchers. Already 2 people from the palace had turned out to be spies, from the maid to the secretary. How could a tower of magic allow such a thing to happen? Let its master explain it. After all, the magicians themselves asked that the investigation into Cecilia's identity be handed over to them. So why didn't they check it out? How can His Majesty trust the tower now? He is revoking their right to investigate. They must hand over all information on this case to the Imperial Guard today. But the head of the tower would not argue. After the reprimand, His Majesty dismissed the mages, sitting down tiredly in his chair, hoping that it would not happen again next time. Alicay, meanwhile, motioned for Ian to come in. Here they meet again. The Emperor began, addressing the mage Ian Pajo, a native of the north. Thanks to the boy's skills, the Empire was once again able to protect itself from spies. If not for him, important and secret information would have fallen into the hands of the wrong people, and the secrets of the Imperial family would have become public. The merits of loyal and responsible people are never overlooked by His Majesty. That's why he wants to reward the young man, and he will do so by presenting him with this item, a robe that belonged to his ancestor, Mitchell Greenriver. He was the only wizard of Imperial blood. His Majesty is not supposed to give it to non-members of his family, but this time he felt that Ian could use it more. Therefore, the boy may believe that the Emperor is borrowing it for the rest of the young man's life, or until he renounces it himself. Michelle Greenriver is the first and last mage of Imperial blood, the hero who saved the Empire, a man who rose to the rank of Tower Master as a sign that his magical abilities were recognized. Have the young man try it on. It is worn on top of clothing, so there is no need to change clothes. Yeah, the robe looks really impressive. It's a little big, but it'll fit in time. And realized that the process could be accelerated. A little magic, and there it was, just the right size for a young wizard. The guests were amazed at the boy's abilities. Even the Emperor noticed how the robe suited him, especially the color, and was deeply honored by the attention. So he immediately knelt down and thanked His Majesty. The next few days, the palace was quiet again. The princess approached Mr. Ian and asked him not to bow when she saw him. In fact, she wanted to talk to the mage about one thing. The young man, ahead of words, decided to apologize for the other night, but the reason was different. Besides, Ian promises to keep the girl's secret. The princess may not worry about it. A figure came up behind him and majestically called Page a young man. It was a young man in a uniform, but of a different color, red. Thanks to the mage's efforts, the Imperial Palace and the Empire itself have been saved, he continued. Just as his father said, Ian is a true hero of their country. And it seems the young man forgot to introduce himself, though the boy surely knows of him. He, the 5th Prince of the Empire, Ragnar Greenriver. Yes, an old friend, immediately reflected in Heen's memories. Why did he do that to him? The way he acted then that night? Damn Ragnar. It may be late, but the 5th Prince congratulates the boy on receiving the recognition of the Ivory Tower. I didn't remember him that young, and Ragnar would really like to thank the mage personally for protecting the Empire from spies, and he's inviting him to dinner. What would he say to that? Page's fists literally clenched with anger. But suddenly a lady entered the conversation. He and Mr. Ian actually already have plans. For the other days too. Yes, the boy confirmed the words, indicating that he really had a lot of things to do. The 5th Prince was slightly annoyed, but he had no arguments against the princess's inquisitive gaze. In that case, unfortunately, Ragnar has to leave for his scheduled meeting. He was really happy to see her. A daze descended from Ian's face. After all, it wasn't often you looked your death straight in the eye, much less speak kindly to it. Finally, the prince left with his guards, leaving the pair alone. In fact, the princess didn't want to interject herself into the men's conversation. Patch stopped her and reassured her. Actually, it's all right. Meanwhile, he was thinking about his friend Ragnar. They met 2 years earlier than in their previous life, and he's still hiding his intentions. This time and will ruin his plans. He will do it before he can increase his influence and his power. Ragnar will not be able to move one step closer to his goal, and the hero will only have to watch his descent into agony with rapture. From now on they are on opposite sides of the barricades. 5 years have passed since then. The Imperial Library is fully illuminated by the rays of the sun, but the Crown Prince does not feel any better. Why can't we keep it simple? And who writes these complicated books anyway? Hearing the indignation, the librarian tried to clarify things a bit. These books were written by the first emperor of the state, and they listed all the qualities that the prince would have to possess to be a future ruler. But for now, for the young man, it's just a stack of incoherent words. He would have to read them all: history, culture, economy, politics of the empire, and so on. The prince tried to find excuses in every way he could, but after all, today was not a good day. The librarian decided to remind him that the emperor wouldn't like that, but no one listened to him anymore. And he was on his way to see if the final battle between Oliver and Ian would be fought today. The vice-captain confirmed the prince's hunch. Indeed, it will be quite a spectacle. Then they should certainly be there, and it was time for them to go. The training ground of the 2nd Squadron of the Imperial Knights. The captain already looked exhausted, but this is his last chance. No mistakes can be made now. Once again, an icy hurricane comes from above. In such cases, you need to be able to turn off the anger to change position in time to stay alive. But it's not so easy when fighting against a mage, because the stone spikes appear right in front of Oliver's face. And even here you have to try to think rationally. For some it would seem like a problem, but for others it would seem like an opportunity. The captain accelerated as fast as he could and started jumping over the spikes to get to his goal faster. And that's to be expected from an opponent stronger than you. Another attack, and this time a powerful fireball. Oliver thinks he needs to go all the way through. Swinging his sword, he shouts for all his might, then pierces the stream of fire with his weapon. He must touch the mage by all means. Just this once, please. Wait, Ian, the captain's coming. And here's the last gasp of hope, isn't it? This is it, this is the moment. Yes, the moment of truth, he's done it. Right in the chest. The young magician praises his opponent, touching his hand. Except it was the back. Nice try. Even though it's a beautiful fight, Oliver is still annoyed, because he hadn't touched Mr. Ian Page. The mage decided to remind him that if it hadn't been an illusion, the knight would have pierced him right through the heart. The men exchanged pleasantries, thanked each other and shook hands. The captain thinks he has gained much more than the young man, which Ian, of course, did not deny, because the knight's skills have indeed become a head above those of 5 years ago. Even the mage's attacks are now within his grasp. Oliver is flattered by this, and he asks permission to ask a question. The captain wonders what level Ian has reached in that time, to which the young man is of course modest, thinking it's not as big a title as it might seem. He is a 5th class master. In his previous life, Max managed to reach 5th class only at the age of 26. Although the rate of development is excellent, Ian has not yet managed to become a 6th class mage, because of the speed of body development and replenishing the mana heart that cannot be increased. At the moment, the young man's limit was 5th grade, but he shouldn't give up trying to become stronger either. Suddenly, someone from outside called out to him, the best mage and the best knight of the empire. Of course, it was the crown prince, who immediately invited the men to breakfast to celebrate their, well, relentless drive to become better. Ian begs his pardon, he will not be able to attend this event as his tower training ends today. Today he will be officially admitted to the duties of Archmage. He has to meet with the master of the tower. The crown prince was upset and saddened, but understood everything. After saying goodbye to Ian, he lets him go. The mage was grateful to his highness and did not hesitate to take off. Right over the heads of the men watching from below, the young man promised to return soon and disappeared into the clouds. Thanks to the robe the emperor had given him, Ian could fly. The prince was even a little envious. He still had one question for the captain. Training was over, what could anyone here say about all this? And Oliver picked up on two things. He could not touch Mr. Ian, and the difference in strength between them would only grow. However, the knight could say one thing for sure, that he would be able to defeat any other mage. And so the main office of the Ivory Tower. Ian arrived on time, as requested. The master keeps going back to the day when he was told about the talented boy from the north who came to meet him in the tower. It seems as if only a short time has passed, but today he is standing before him. And that means that the tower master has grown older. Reading the recent letters of recommendation about Anna, the elders saw only praise. Page's appearance is a gift to Celestia and the entire empire. Even newly graduated mages are trying to be like him. After all, Ion is literally a walking manual on how to be the perfect mage. And the young man asks not to praise him too much, to which he gets this response. Whether it is true or not, they will find out very soon. Today, as Ian knows, is the last day of his training. A normal student of the academy would have a graduation ceremony, and then he'd be sent to the provinces to conduct mana tests. But the young man's case is unique. And how does Ian feel about spending the big day talking to an old man? Page, of course, considers it a great honor. The host realizes it's the custom to respond this way, but he's pleased all the same. It's official. He congratulates Ian on becoming a true mage and presents him with this plaque. The mage can display it anywhere in the empire. Everyone from soldiers to citizens will have to listen to him. He might need it a lot in the future. Patch wonders, is there really anywhere that needs his help as a full-fledged mage? And unfortunately it is. The tower is short-staffed. They've lost Helen, and there's no one to do her duties. The master doesn't want to burden Ian, but he'd appreciate the help. Page is happy to help, especially as he's one of the archmages of the tower. Yes, he has high expectations. Since this is the first time, Ian can choose where he wants to go. The province of Radmir is the empire's largest seaport, or maybe the province of Benson, the largest iron producer in the empire. And the last place for the young man is Pyric province, where he had performed mana tests in a past life. The thing is, some mage died on that mission, so he was sent to replace him. If there are stories like that going on there, Ian chooses this place, which the tower's owner had no doubt about. It's the one that needs help the most. They had already sent 2 third-grade mages and Imperial knights, but the problem remained unsolved. Apparently, the monsters of the Great Meadows have gone on the offensive. This is the document that spells out all the details. I must try to familiarize myself with it and make up my mind today. If he refuses, we'll have to find someone else. No sooner had the tower master finished speaking than the mage took over the task without a second thought. He would go to the province of Pyric. In the evening on the same day, the palace is for guests. The young lad is in shock. And he's going on his first mission to that province? The thing is, there are huge monsters raiding there all the time. The mage was not pleased with these words spoken at the table, and all because his mother was sitting next to him, who started to worry and ask questions. Was it really that dangerous and that bad out there? Ian tried to change the subject delicately, saying something about the couple of months it would take to sort things out. Mac was leaving in a week. His mother was saddened again, but Ian promised to return as soon as possible. The boy got into the conversation again and offered to let the captain look at the elixir he had made before he left. The boy had tried hard, perhaps he could use that one. And the alchemist, Douglas's father, was embarrassed. Wasn't it time for his son to stop calling Mr. Ian captain? The boy at first did not understand what he was talking about, but he soon agreed to his father's wishes. Perhaps it would be better to call the wizard your brother? His father almost choked on his fork at what he heard. Even the other side of the table was surprised. Douglas said it again with all the politeness he could muster. Brother Ian. He'd been the one who'd made the potion to kill Ian in a previous life. And the mother at the table smiled. Now her son has a little brother, it's so sweet. Douglas's father was in complete shock at this point. Then what could he call Vanessa now? Never mind, let his son call him Mr. Ian, no familiarity. Even after growing up together in this very house. Mother seemed to understand why the grown man was so nervous. It's magical, no words are needed here. After looking at all this, Ian made a conclusion for himself. This was the kind of life he liked, when the whole family was together and everyone was having fun at the dinner table. But no, brother, Douglas realized. And so Ian was getting ready to leave. Lydia wondered if he was going straight to Pirik or if he had some important business to attend to before then. Yes, Max will first stop by to say goodbye to the Tower Master, and then to the province. And he hoped the alchemist hadn't forgotten where he'd set the mana traps. The alchemist only smiled and nodded. The man would give his life to keep the young man's mother safe. Douglas turned again to his brother, to the captain, and handed him his vial. He was aware that the mage already had an elixir from his father and this one was the same, but the boy made it his own way. And Douglas thinks he moved closer to Kian to whisper something in his ear. This specimen will work much better than his father's. Yes, Douglas is indeed a talented boy, so anything is possible, and the mage thanks the youngster. Although Douglas still had 3 more years to study at the academy, his skills had already been recognized at the Imperial level. He has also been promoted to the position of Imperial Alchemist. Ian is confident that his elixir will work well. Also, the captain will ride a carriage instead of flying on his robe and attracting attention as the curious young man thought. Mother barely made it in time for his departure. She had prepared a meal on the road for Ian. On the top was food that would spoil quickly, but on the bottom was dried meat and dried vegetables. They could be saved for later. The mother also put a bean pie, the son's favorite. Max thanked his mother with all his love, and then hugged her according to all the rules of a loving child and etiquette. And he promised that he would be back soon, but now it was definitely time for him to go. Having once again bowed, he gets into the carriage, and then goes forward into the unknown. Sad thoughts do not leave the young man's head, and he deeply believes, or at least he should believe, that even where he and his forces are not, Mother will be safe. Still, a huge mansion with good security, a beautiful city with a low crime rate, and of course, mana worms that only Douglas, Mother, and Lydia can control. That should definitely be enough to protect the mansion. Ian barely puts these thoughts down and clenches his fists harder. Pirik province, he thinks, it's been 25 years. 25 years have passed since that day. A huge army of orcs is advancing from the side of the gorge, and they are all heading straight for the defenses. The captain orders to bring him 100 corpses of these creatures immediately, and until the order is carried out, no one dares to dream of death. A messenger guard rushes in from the other side. He brings fresh but sad news. They've been attacked by a band of orcs, right from the rear, and the warrior's face looked terribly frightened. Even the captain was shocked. How could those guys get past them? The second and third squads stay in place with the mages, while the first squad heads after the captain. They need to deal with the orcs immediately. Those were the orders of the senior officer. The cavalry went forward. The mushtorks are strong, but these monsters move according to a certain principle. For experienced soldiers, such monsters are not a problem. But the orcs can really take on the newcomers. The captain hopes they're not too late. Suddenly, it starts to drip from the sky. Could it be snow? But how? It's never happened before in the east. And then came a bright glow that appeared right in front of the squad. A split second later, huge ice spikes appeared from the ground. They were so large and massive in front of the soldiers, and inside them, the soldiers could make out the orcs. Each of them was motionless like a statue, chained to their ice prison. The captain himself, however, could not understand what was going on here, and only distantly showed someone's silhouette on one of the ice obsessions, which disappeared after a moment. Most of the goblins were struck by the rain of ice. The others were trapped in a trap that none other than Ian had created by freezing the passage. The captain ordered the wizard to identify himself as soon as he set foot on the ground, but instead, the mysterious young man offered his help, which, frankly, surprised the knights. His name is Ian Page, and he is the Archmage of the tower. The captain of the squad was surprised at first, but then he remembered that he had heard this name somewhere, sort of like a young native of a northern village. That's why the mage is so young. It is said that he cleared Mount Morrigan of goblins as a boy. Then it is an honor for the warrior to meet him in person, as indeed it is for Ian to meet the best fighter of the East, Collian Pyric. The captain understands perfectly well. Perhaps the mage is very tired from the road, but still he asks to give him some time, and they should discuss something in private. The area of the region's defense fortress. The captain didn't expect the goblins to return. In fact, he didn't expect them to be back in such large numbers. And they were fighting particularly fearless today. It seems that a major change is taking place in the Great Meadows, and if not, then, the mage probably knows that the knights have petitioned the palace and the tower. In the former, they asked for battle reinforcements and necessary supplies to be sent, and in the second, Archmage, because only a mage of the highest class can help in this situation. That incredible wall of ice that appeared as if out of nowhere was able to stop the monsters. It will buy a little time to make a decision, but as Colleen realizes, not much. They've been at war with the monsters for a long time now, but the invasions keep coming and there isn't enough food, and there aren't enough soldiers all the time. So if the petition had been accepted, they would have had the strength to continue the fight. But apparently the palace had decided to ignore the request, and since Ian had been sent to them, he must know how to go about it. The Archmage understood the situation. The ice wall would hold for 10 days. If the monsters don't decide to attack through the mountains, the warriors are safe. During that time, Paige will pay a visit to Great Meadows. He wants to find the source of the problem and fix it. That kind of self-confidence made the captain angry. They have been in these lands for a long time, but they have never been able to determine where so many monsters come from. The only thing they have found out is that there are many kinds of monsters, and they don't fight amongst themselves. They gather in groups and kill only humans. In addition, not only Green River is now under their attacks, but also the Cowwood Empire to the north and the Kingdom to the west. The roads in these states are too narrow and bumpy, so they have suffered the least damage. There is only one way in, the Canyon of the Great Snake. The monsters most often attack the coast from there. And the strange thing is that in the south there is a kingdom of Agitan natives, and for some reason they are not besieged, as if something scares the creatures away from those parts. The command thinks that the south is the reason for such frequent and aggressive attacks on the Great Meadows, but the soldiers, alas, can't get there because of the constant monster raids on the canyon. Ion also found it odd, if only because it hadn't happened in his previous life. Invasions, sure, yes, but not on such a large scale. Then he would go straight to the Aboriginal Kingdom, where a great shaman was in charge. Surely he must know something. How beautiful the night sky is in these parts. Great Meadows? And how many bright stars? Surely that thing must still be here, Ion thought. An artifact belonging to an Aboriginal shaman, the Staff of the Great Meadows. It was carved from the rare wood of iron birch and the mage liked it. 3 years earlier, the Green River Empire, the Cowwood Empire, and the Kingdom of Rosso had surrendered the coalition, all to destroy the monsters in the Great Meadows. Since most of the monsters appeared there, the nations agreed to divide the territory of the meadows among themselves, except that in the past, Jonah the Great Shaman had disappeared and the natives had been enslaved. Therefore, nothing of what was happening now had happened. Of course, the magician's return could affect the course of events, just as it could be the reason for the incomprehensible invasions of the Great Meadows. In 10 days, the ice wall will melt, but until then, the source of the problem must be identified and a solution found. Therefore, if Ion does not return, but the knight immediately hurried to convince the Archmage otherwise and wished him good luck on his way. The neighborhood looked pretty calm, so Paige made the decision to set foot on the ground. This is the place where the Aboriginal lands originate, pretty quiet for a tense region. The north is crawling with monsters, but there's none here. I wonder why they're attacking Pirik and avoiding this region. There's an easy way to find out. A group of natives, unsuspecting, sat at their post. Who the hell are they? A young man who both distracted and frightened them. Ion admitted that he wasn't really their enemy, just a mage from the Green River Empire. But the question remained as to how he knew their language. However, Paige did not see fit to answer it. He would have to see the shaman. The men were surprised for some reason. Shaman King is a title comparable in importance only to the master of the tower. A shaman is a creature with the heart and brain of mana. Bred not by a wizard, however, the shamans have their king at the top of the hierarchy. Ian investigates the monsters that are attacking the north, and he's sure the head of the natives knows the reason why. At that moment, the warrior put his long spear to the mage's throat. Who the hell is he to talk like that and demand a meeting with the king? Get him out of here right now, now. If he keeps talking nonsense, they'll sacrifice him to the spirit of the Great Meadows. But Ian's expression changed to one of impenetrability. Did they really think he would listen to them? Without hesitation, one of the warriors rushed to attack. Now they would find out how the stranger would speak on the threshold of death. One swipe and that's it, the native thought. But that was not what actually happened. The Archmage cast an ice spear, then sliced off the tip in one precise motion. Heads will be next, Ian warned. He suggested we do without making too much noise. Have him taken to the king at once. A voice behind him answered the Imperial's call. What does he want here? And judging by the kaftan, it is the king of the shamans. Yes, the elder confirmed the mage's hunch. And Ian was surprised that the man had shown up in person. On top of that, monsters are attacking 3 nations that have never been touched in all that time. So the king must know why that's the case, right? To which he only replied that raids are part of their nature. They don't know why it's happening. It didn't take a moment for the Archmage to realize that it was a lie, and he wouldn't be fooled. Let the old man tell him what was going on. The warriors stirred again. but the king calmed them with a wave of his hand. The shaman is surprised. His magic of deception didn't work on the Imperial mage. That's right, such cheap trickery will not work on him. Let it be as the guest wishes. And the shaman began his tale. Many years ago there was a prediction that the Sea of Fire would swallow the great grasslands, and the golden lands will be drenched in blood. The prophecy said that the aboriginal tribe that had lived on that land for thousands of years would be destroyed, and the people who lived there would be enslaved. Yeah, that's all the stuff Ian was thinking about the other day. So, the people didn't know what to do. The outbreak of war would mark their end. There was no way out. Life was back to normal, and prayer was the only hope to delay the inevitable. But one day a woman came to the village. She gave them a staff with power and disappeared unnoticed. Her last words were a warning that if a stranger came to them, he must be killed immediately. So the Archmage must forgive them, but today his life will be cut short. Now Ian was one step closer to the truth. So that's it, black magic. It was banned 300 years ago and thought to be extinct. Who knew she was still alive and would find a magician here? This outcome seemed entertaining to Paige and caused a slight chuckle, because he wasn't about to say goodbye to his life, which wasn't surprising. But he could use the staff with black magic and he would take it. The shaman didn't mind, but only if he had the strength. And words quickly turned into actions. Ian used magic and asked his opponent to keep his eyes open. Meanwhile, at the wall, people are wondering if something is wrong. It's been 10 days since the mage traveled to the Great Meadows. Soon enough, the ice wall will melt and the lives of the warriors will be in danger again. And so there's nothing left to do but Adel listens attentively to the Lord's orders. He should tell everyone to get on alert. Gather all troops, all weapons and catapults. Bring the guards on the mountain as well. The soldier has understood and is in a hurry to carry out his orders immediately. Cullion is ready for anything. They must defend themselves. For the safety of the province and its people, the warriors must be their strong shield. And now the moment has come when the ice between the mountains has finally melted. Have the knights prepare the catapults. Everyone is at attention, but the captain, squinting, notices something in the fog. Again the same shadow, the same figure. And this time Ion Shaw, barely moving and leaning on a staff. They recognize him. Why, it's the Archmage sent by the tower. This staff, Paige whispered, don't touch it. And his weakened body fell to the ground just outside Green River's territory. The first thing he noticed was the patterned ceilings, and his eyes continued to squint, but his thoughts slowly came to normal. Where did he find himself? In the local castle? From the looks of it, he was lucky to be alive. He must deal with the staff first. But someone drew the Archmage's attention back to himself. It was Lord Cullion, who had just entered. He said that Ion had been unconscious here for 4 days, so he needed to know how he was feeling. The physician said he should be on bed rest. Paige interrupted the Lord. He was fine. What he needed to know now was where the staff was. Cullion didn't pull any punches and told him that he had asked the local mages to keep the item in that chest. He is, in a way, Mana's prison. The idea impressed Ian, who had already come quite close to him. The Lord wished he could stay out of it, but it was his business to be responsible for the lives of everyone living in Green River. And about the young man's health, the doctor said, Paige's body, as well as Mana's, are completely emaciated. Come a few minutes later and it would be certain death. But despite his condition, the Lord is obliged to ask, what nearly ruined the Archmage? And what happened in the Great Meadows? It didn't take long for the question to be answered. This staff is the cause of all the troubles. It was created by the Black Magician. It was the one the shaman used to scare away the monsters. Cullion was shocked. Didn't the Black Magicians disappear 300 years ago? So the king of the natives? No, someone else made the staff, Ian answered Ford. But the Archmage had not yet been able to figure out who. When the shaman died, the black magic began to dissipate and the monsters pounced on the new owner of the staff. It's a sort of curse to cover their tracks. Now Lord understood why the young man had been so delayed. But if the staff is so dangerous, why not just destroy it or leave it where it was found? Yeah, it's simple. Ian likes the artifact. That's all. Cullion could not express his incomprehension even with emotion. While the Lord was coping with his facial expressions, the Archmage cleared the objects of black magic right in front of him. But at the same moment he felt something inside him, a sharp and clear sensation that sent shivers through his weakened body. And he immediately clutched at his heart, his eyes blurring again. Could it really be, he thought, the screams of the bystanders no longer reaching his mind? Could it be Mana's heart? But the mage's mouth was bleeding. The palm of his hand didn't help much. A few drops still fell on the floor. At this point, the Lord was genuinely frightened for the aiming mage's life and ordered to call a doctor immediately, but Ian asked not to worry. Nothing terrible had happened. He had simply shed his skin in a sense. Such wording surprised Cullion and raised questions. But the Archmage woke up and explained, the mana heart is not large enough to accommodate the volume of his mana yet. It happens, it's normal. He really was already fine. Yes, just as he thought, it was worth it to hurry up with the upgrade, since the amount of mana had increased significantly. Then, in fact, deep down, the young man was just waiting for it. After a while, the Lord again expressed his joy that the Archmage was alive. But it's still worth seeing a doctor. Now that Anu's better, we can get down to business. And here's where to start. When the young man was on his way to the Great Meadows, a package came from the Magic Tower. They were asked to show the orb to the Archmage, but he was unconscious. Anyway, it belongs to Ian now, and something else is due. The Lord reached into his breast pocket. A messenger delivered this letter from His Majesty. It was instructed to be delivered personally into Page's hands. The method of delivery certainly surprised the young man. His Majesty delivered a letter? Not the modern and fast way, but the long but proven way? What if it contained something the tower must not know about? Then Ian would start with her message. Touching the balloon, a letter appeared. The message is for Archmage Ian Page. Delivery has been delayed so as not to interfere with mission accomplishment. Your attention, please. That was the choice that had to be made. During the young man's absence, something had happened. Bandits had broken into his house. The expression on the magician's face immediately changed to one of aggression. Your family is protected by the ivory tower. You don't have to worry about them. They knew very well that and would be worried. So why did the tower master send this letter? Unable to hold back the storm of emotions, a stingy tear rolled down the young man's cheek. Okay, now a message from His Majesty. Dear Archmage and Page, if this letter has reached you, then luck is still on the ruler's side. With the blessing of the Tower of Fortune, His Majesty wanted to ask the young man for a favor. Since Max is now on a responsible mission, he probably doesn't know yet. Very soon, there would be a meeting in the free city of Demidor, and it was there that the fate of the lands captured by the monsters would be decided. And he was greatly surprised, since in his previous life it happened 3 years later. So, the meeting will be attended by the Crown Prince, the 5th Prince Ragnar, the Master of the Magic Tower, and Captain Duncan as well. And as you, Ian, are reading this letter, they have most likely already arrived in the Free City. The Crown Prince has no support at this meeting, so His Majesty asks the Archmage if he can be his son's right hand and guide him through this difficult journey. In return, the Emperor promises that Ian's family will be protected by his direct decree. At such a moment, the young man was in no way prepared to receive such overwhelming information. He needed to think and most importantly remember the negotiations in Demidora, a place where Ragnar's skills would be highly valued and where he would begin to strengthen his position while the Crown Prince would weaken. Ragnar will be able to prove himself as a great diplomat and force the lands to be given to the Empire. After these events, all the aristocrats will come to his side, and the Crown Prince will be condemned for incompetence and then practically rejected by the noble society. And it seems impossible. Could it be the events of the past and the present? That is, was it all planned by the Master of the Tower? Patch doesn't know how long ago or why the High Mage had such thoughts, but an invasion of monsters? Oh, and then there's the Shaman King, who received a staff with black magic from a mysterious sorceress, a negotiation that started 3 years earlier than in his previous life. Yeah, it's all connected somehow. Oh, and then there's the invasion of his home by bandits. It seems to be a warning of sorts for the young man, and Ian thought he was just suspicious. Turns out the Tower Master sees right through him. Page is eager to return to his family in the capital, despite the Emperor's request. But something special must happen. Magic not found in the books. Magic that even the Master of the Tower doesn't know. Ian can defeat him, but only by becoming a 6th-class wizard. There's something the Lord must do for him, namely fulfill a request of his. And here is a free city that does not belong to any country, Demidora. Many people have gathered in the central square. The Crown Prince asks to call Ian to him, to which the captain suggests that he be patient. The Lord needs to represent the Empire on behalf of his father. This chance can radically change his fate in the future. The young man agrees, but nerves and fear make themselves felt. The knight himself should be well aware that there will be various ambassadors and the Tower Master, as well as Ragnar. The heir has a bad feeling about this. At times like this, Ian's support would come in handy. But the High Mage is sure that the time has come. He's been preparing for this day for a long time. The young man must be rushing to the Imperial Palace. He thinks he understands how Ian Page thinks. Family comes first, no matter what happens in politics. So when this is over, the new prince... What's that? The town's nobles and visitors have taken notice of the sky. Something's flying up there. Could it be a huge bird? Only the Crown Prince guessed before the others. It was his beloved acquaintance, the Archmage of the Tower and friend of the Imperial family Ian. He was now clearly visible to everyone in the square. and the first thing Page did when he stepped on the ground was apologize for being late. He did it not to everyone, but to His Highness, the Crown Prince. Ragnar seemed to recognize his guest. His face was therefore concerned. The Tower Master was incredibly surprised. Had the young man neglected his family? Meanwhile, in the Imperial Palace of the Green River Empire, a young alchemist waits for the captain's return. Because of the ban, he can't even go to the academy. The boring. His father points out that they should already be thankful that they were welcomed into the palace at all. And thank goodness for Mona traps to catch those brigands. The man is sure that if such dangerous magic was used, the scoundrels would be wiped out. So, Lady Page, you needn't worry. This is His Majesty's Imperial Palace. Is there any place safer? The girl agreed and even smiled slightly in response. An awkward silence reigned. By the way, a letter came from the Ivory Tower. Very soon, Mr. Ian would appear and say Tatum. Did he hear it, or was it an echo? But lo and behold, the Archmage in his blue cloak did indeed appear in the doorway and uttered the word. Was he a little late? Everyone present was shocked at how fortunate such a coincidence was, and returned to them with the same still sweet smile. The young man apologized once again for the disturbance and received his mother's approving and sincere smile. He would protect them now. Last night in the castle of Pyrrhec province. Now, about that Archmage's request. The Lord is willing to do whatever it takes to fulfill it, and he needs it to protect his whole self. Colleen was surprised, but the hero clarified he is going to use magic that will bring his body and mind into a state of sleep. If there's a problem, have them call the local mage and have him channel mana into Ian's head, then he'll wake up. No one has ever been able to reach 6th grade magic officially, so there are very few records of its capabilities. Even in his past life, after becoming a 6th class mage and evolving further, Page had to come up with his own personal techniques or look them up in very ancient books. He was going to use one of those spells right now. The magic circle was flooded with mana, and in a second 2 illusions of the Archmage appeared in its place, and the body of the master fell exhausted into Lord Pyrrhec's arms. He was still reeling from what he had seen. A puppet show. With magic of the 6th class and above, it is possible to make the main body a controller, after which it will fall into a state of sleep and summon 2 puppets that can not only move freely. And 5th grade level sorcery. Some of the work is still left to the warrior, and he really relies on it. The Crown Prince of the Empire was extremely glad that the Archmage had arrived after all. He was definitely calmer with Ian's appearance. The hero, by the way, was also pleased by this fact. And here was the man who was more surprised than the others. The head of the tower greeted the Mage of the North. He had already received a report on the successful completion of the tasks in Pyrrhec province. Ian had done a good job. The mage, for his part, admitted it was only part of his job. But why is the young man here? If he had already recovered, he should have gone back to the tower to attend to other urgent matters. Could it be that news of what had happened to his family had not yet? Ian didn't let him finish and said in a stern tone that he'd received a letter from the tower. And not only from there, but from the Emperor as well. In it, His Majesty asked the Archmage to assist the prince at today's meeting. And since that's the case, the Tower Master wants to see the document. It is indeed a genuine state copy. And it also bears the Emperor's personal signature. The High Magician knew that His Majesty would do something like this. But for Anne Page to disregard his family and come here, this is indeed a real letter, summarized the Tower Master. But still, the Archmage is not allowed here. Such an answer caused indignation on the part of the prince. Does the Supreme Magician really want to disobey the Emperor? The latter, in turn, tried to tactfully explain. It's all about trust between the 3 countries. The number of official representatives and escorts was agreed upon in advance, and they cannot change anything on their own whim. Diplomatic relations. How would the Empire look if it suddenly brought an Archmage of this caliber to its side? The prince should realize for himself how undesirable it was to be confused. Haiyan, of course, knew that the words of the High Magician were true. Right now, the 3 countries were on peaceful terms. But previously there had been endless wars and squabbles between them. According to the new agreement, which satisfies all parties, a representative of the country, as well as his escort and guards, will attend the meeting. There are already 3 Archmages from their side, including the Tower Master. If one more is added, the trust of the other participants will be undermined, and is well aware of the kind of trust diplomacy we're talking about. The High Magician is right in saying that there is cause for concern here. Thoth is glad to hear this, so he asks the young man to return to the capital as soon as possible. It was a pity, of course, that he had to give up so much time to travel, and promised to take everything to the Emperor, but just in case, he offered. If one of the accompanying Archmages were to leave, then he could take his place. Since it was His Majesty's personal order The Tower Master thought that there would be nothing wrong with a replacement, except who would want to refuse. I clearly sounded a voice in the crowd. This man is willing to gladly give up his seat. The attendants were surprised at such a bold suggestion, and especially the young prince. Does Ronan now realize what he's even talking about? The master of the tower asked him, but the latter was completely serious and unwavering. As representatives of a country, could they brush aside the emperor's order, even though the Archmage understood the importance of diplomatic relations? But as a citizen of the empire, he dare not disobey his emperor's orders. His decision will help them fulfill two conditions at once. Ronan turned to His Highness and asked for permission to hand over his responsible mission to Mr. Ian Page. The prince was only glad, which even made him smile a little, and then thanked the Archmage for the decision in favor of the empire. He could return to the capital by his personal order. Also, the heir would give him a carriage. And before leaving, Ronan decided to address Ian personally. That representative of the delegation is now in his place. The only thing the Archmage asked was that the young man should take the job responsibly. Page had no choice but to agree and thank him for the opportunity. Archmage Ronan. He is one of those who can be brought to his side. Thoth is known for his honesty and straightforwardness, as well as his neutral attitude towards both the Ivory Tower and the Emperor. He is a simple mage who has devoted his life entirely to his craft. If Ian can teach him a few magic tricks, he'd be happy to take his side. In any case, Ronan should definitely leave now. Just as the Tower Master had said, Archmages who were not officially on a diplomatic mission should not be here. The High Mage grimaced in his chest as he recognized this and clutched his staff tightly with anger. He had thought Ian was nothing but a foolish pacifier. Is he trying to take his place as Master of the Tower? What a sneaky young man that Page is. He walks around with that smiling face of his. The High Mage has been working for too long to gain the tower and the full power of authority and influence over all the affairs of the Empire. And some youngster can't just take his efforts and undo them. And it seems that he is not the only one, for Ragnar must already guess what this performance is all about. Demidora was indeed a free city, not affiliated with any of the three countries. Plus, they all recognized its necessity and officially recognized it, keeping it neutral for years. The 19th mayor of Demidora, Angola Neville. The man asks to approach him, and the Crown Prince is already wondering where the other members of the assembly are. According to the words of the head of the city, those were already in their estates for special-level guests. For the ambassadors from the Green River Empire, this is the manor here. And for His Highness the Prince, another one has been set aside. It is used only by the noblest of visitors. Such a gesture certainly pleased the prince, but apparently not surprised. If there was anything on the schedule for today, he turned to the Tower Master. The mage politely replied that there was not. Then they could rest today. Well, then this order applies to everyone. Ian, on the other hand, is going personally with His Highness. Ragnar looks at them as they leave. He wishes to speak to the Tower Master alone, so they retire to one of the guest estates. And yet, what is the subject of the conversation? The fifth Crown Prince did not procrastinate. He won't be asked to take responsibility for what happened, but the magician who's always hanging around his brother. He annoys Ragnar. Yes, he doesn't like all this. The Tower Master understands what we're talking about. The prince shouldn't worry, Ian Pagey is a good mage, but diplomatic skills will be important. Magic won't help him. The Archmage won't say a word because he simply doesn't know what to say at important gatherings. What can such a young mage say in a place where the greatest diplomats of the three countries are present? That one here will be just a decoration. Everything will go on as planned. The prince will be the centerpiece of today's meeting. Ragnar understood that, but a feeling of uneasiness never left him. All attempts to win Jan to his side had failed, and if left to his own devices, he would become a great obstacle for the future prince. He hoped that the High Mage would deal with him as soon as possible. The Tower Master only repeated his promise. Everything will be as His Highness Ragnar wants it to be. In the other manner at the same time, the atmosphere is much more cheerful. The prince likes this room so much. He also knows that Demidora has a good nightlife. They will need to be sure to go to some sort of performance, and maybe even buy some clothes especially for going out. Have the captain call the servants and tell them. But suddenly the young man was interrupted by Ian's stern voice. What does this page want at such a serene time? And why the darting eyes here? Max spoke abruptly and decided to mention the purpose of their visit. The prince would be speaking at the Tri-Country Gathering as the official representative of the entire Green River Empire. They didn't come here to have fun. The young man must forget about the night's festivities, because from this second on, they would be getting ready. And he couldn't stand it. They were starting right now. The prince looked pitifully at his knight, but he found no support in him. Oliver agreed with the Archmage. His Highness, as the chief representative of the delegation, would be given the right to speak first. If he says nothing, the fifth prince will have that right. The young man knows, his father told him, but he'll say straight out, the chances are very high that the fifth prince is perfectly prepared and can grab everyone's attention. Of course, he doesn't want that. The young man really doesn't know, but international relations, the army, the division of territory, slavery, he's never been trained in diplomacy, so frankly, he doesn't know much about it. Wouldn't it be better if he just kept his mouth shut? Much worse than him saying something stupid in front of important people. He's trying to escape from reality because of his helplessness. But Ian realizes it can't be done. It is the Crown Prince who is the most important figure in overthrowing Ragnar. The Archmage uttered probably the most unwanted words in the situation. The young man should be the center of attraction at the meeting. Paige will give the Crown Prince a chance and help. He needs him to be able to prove himself and achieve something. And so that the young man does not lose his position and not give all the attention to the fifth prince. And he will tell all the necessary answers to the questions that will be discussed. So the prince will be obliged to learn every single answer right now and until the day of the meeting. 1 week later, the time of the meeting, Ragnar was getting rather curious. He'd heard that his brother hadn't gone anywhere for a whole week after he'd stopped by his place. So what had he been so busy with? The tower master thought it was strange too. But the guards assigned to the Crown Prince's mansion said that nothing special was going on there. Todd only occasionally strolled through the garden with a thoughtful expression on his face. And here at last they met. The brothers greeted each other. Ragnar immediately asked how the prince's last night had been, to which Todd replied, acceptable, without a single emotion. This pleased the fifth prince and even amused him a little. He'll go to the conference room first. They'll see each other soon. Two completely opposite figures. This day would be truly historic. The Crown Prince's fists were shaking with excitement. The Archmage couldn't help but notice this as he addressed the young man from behind. He shouldn't worry about the past week, he had prepared perfectly. And he was sure the prince would be the protagonist of today's gathering. These seemingly obvious words encouraged the heir, and he confirmed them. And so the 19th mayor of the free city of Demidor, Angola Neville, asks to be allowed to introduce himself. He will say at once, the content of the meeting will be recorded, and it may be interrupted at his personal request. This fact must be remembered by all. Right now the meeting will begin, and everyone present is asked to pay attention. One of the men raised his hand in expectation of silence. As everyone already knows, the path to Great Meadows and their kingdom is thorny, so it's difficult to engage in trade exchange. This is the heir of the Duke in the Low Kingdom, Maxwell Veneth. As such, they would like to support a force of mages and elite knights rather than squads of soldiers, with money, not battle supplies. The Cowwood Empire has already agreed to support them, but let the others not think too much. If the Green River Empire doesn't agree, they are always willing to look out for a solution. They started by discussing military policy, Ian remarked. So let the prince answer how they were preparing. When Ragnar saw his interlocutor hesitate, he decided to speak first. He would speak about the supplies for the army, but the young man interrupted him confidently enough before he could begin. The heir wants to hear first the opinion of their warlord, Duncan Marcus. The expert is here right now. This is a great opportunity to get his opinion, isn't it? And the floor was given to Mr. Duncan, who in turn was graciously thanked and began his speech. And he liked it at first. It was pretty confident. The main thing was to keep it that way. The dialogue between the guests flowed portentously. And most importantly, the Crown Prince was not silent and answered any questions in his direction. It could be seen that this pleased the representatives of the Luo Kingdom. The conversation even almost turned into a friendly chat, which started to embarrass the fifth prince a bit. However, the day soon changed to evening. This is the end of the topic. The Archmage summed up to himself. We need to be blunt. They want to divide the territory into 3 even parts. But would anyone be able to guarantee their equality? The prince of the Cowwood Empire, Tector Cowwood, has spoken. In such a vast territory, resources and soil vary. Why should some get the good and others the bad? Tector is sure the losing side will try to reclaim other lands, which means war will inevitably break out between all of them. And here comes the most important topic at today's meeting, the division of the lands of the Great Meadows between the 3 countries. Prince Cowwood of the Empire has no interest in a feud. He would like to keep the truce for many more years. If anyone has a better proposal, let them announce it so they can come to an agreement without quarreling. Ragnar, burdened with a difficult decision, turned to the Tower Master. What's on your mind about that? And no sooner had the 5th prince raised his hand than someone almost shouted to the entire hall. He has a great solution. The other representatives of the No Small Things were dumbfounded by such an outburst, because the Crown Prince would speak it out. Yes, quite an unexpected turn. The mayor of the city supported His Highness's initiative. He was sure that everyone present would like to know what it was all about. The prince didn't hesitate. The point is that the ivory tower, aka the Tower of Magic, has invented a new method. It could detect resources hidden underground and calculate their quantity even over a large area. The Tower Master couldn't believe he was hearing this. The Luo Kingdom, on the other hand, became very curious. So, the Crown Prince is sure that those have at least once heard of the mage standing beside him. He is the youngest Archmage of the Green River Empire, Ian Page, and he personally invented the said method. A surprised exclamation ran through the meeting hall, and a vapor appeared on the face of the Supreme Mage. So they had the same strategy to use this magic method to their advantage? But how could Mallets know in advance what would be the key topic of the entire meeting? The Crown Prince didn't stop his bravado. This way, they would be able to create a resource map, which, in addition to everything else, would indicate the condition of the soil. With this, they will be able to fairly divide the territories between countries. His Highness realizes the distribution might be approximate and not perfectly accurate, but he thought that for a few decades all countries will focus on resource extraction, right? The fifth prince clenched his fists without holding back his anger and then looked sternly at his opponent, but not at his brother and heir, but at Ian, at the mage, whom such a reaction only made him smile. Well, that was the end of the matter. The streets of the city were quiet. Only Oliver was standing lonely and waiting for the heir when suddenly he heard an appeal in his direction. It was the prince with that satisfied face, with Ian walking behind him. The knight needed to see this. How His Highness had won everyone over at the gathering today. Too bad war couldn't catch the Tower Master's pouty face. The heir will tell everything in detail, but over a walk. They never got to enjoy the views of the city because of the preparations, after all. Then at least we should celebrate. And Ian's going with them, by the way. When else would he get a chance to have fun? Well, this time the Archmage had no objections. At last, the prince was glad to see it. By the way, Paige will be of age soon. His Highness thinks we can have a drink or two. He'll teach him the right way. But suddenly their fun is interrupted by a painfully familiar voice. It was Ragnar, who appeared on the horizon. What did his brother want with the Crown Prince? But the latter only bowed, putting his hand on his chest, and thanked him for today's performance. He had learned a lot from His Highness. The young man was at first taken aback by such courtesy, but then he had the courage to reply that he was glad he had been able to help Ragnar. It was good that he was learning and participating in such meetings. He must not give up and continue in the same way. So if he needs advice, let him go to the Crown Prince. After these words, Ragnar left, and the young man turned to the captain. Yes, today was indeed the best day of his life, which, of course, pleased his companions as well. In any case, now it was time for them to go. I need a break from a week of misery, and Oliver can stop standing at attention and join us. We're all friends here, so don't be so diligent. And Paige is trying a drink. The prince said he'd teach him. Suddenly, His Highness suddenly stopped talking. What's wrong with John's hands? They've turned pale. The situation attracted the attention of Ragnar and the Tower Master. A commotion that made everyone dumbfounded with surprise. Only the Archmage uttered, "It seems that this is his limit of abilities." But what is Ian talking about now? The mage apologized, but it seems the prince will have to teach him how to drink already in the palace. The prince will definitely explain everything later. Right now his body is melting in front of the whole audience. And the last thing he managed to say to the prince was, "See you later." And after that, his body disappeared completely. The Tower Master instantly realized what was wrong and knocked his staff on the ground. Illusion. Was the Archmage an illusion all this time? But if so, Ragnar was as surprised as his brother. So all this time Demidor Ion Page had just been playing with them? The Tower Master was filled with anger, which was expressed in his clenched teeth. Thanks for watching. Part 5 will be out very soon. But let's get 1,000 likes. Also write the secret word in the comments. Clone. That way I'll know you've seen it to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you soon and bye-bye.